There are mysteries buried so deep in history that even the bravest historians hesitate to touch them, secrets whispered across deserts, hidden beneath temples, locked behind centuries of silence. Tonight, you and I are stepping into one of those shadows. Imagine this: the Knights Templar, Europe's most feared, wealthy, an enigmatic warrior monk standing beneath the blazing Egyptian sun, staring at hieroglyphs thousands of years older than their own. Faith. What were they searching for? Why did their power grow so suddenly? And why did kings and popes fear them enough to destroy them overnight? Historians have argued over these questions for centuries. But one truth remains: the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. If you stay with this story, you'll discover a hidden thread, woven through ancient Egypt, Jerusalem, the Crusades, and the Templars' final days. One that hints their treasure wasn't gold, but knowledge so profound it threatened the world. This is the story most history books only dare to mention in footnotes. But tonight, we're opening the whole door. And trust me, once you step in, you won't want to leave. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Whispered History Tales, because the secrets we're about to uncover might just change the way you see the ancient world forever, and you won't want to miss the stories coming next. The story begins not in Europe, but in the burning sands of Giza. Nearly 1,000 years before the Templars ever existed, the Great Pyramid, rising like a stone mountain, was already ancient by the time Julius Caesar visited it. Its stones, weighing tons, were carved with a precision modern engineers still struggle to replicate. Behind those stones lay corridors that defied gravitational logic, chambers aligned with stars, and mathematical ratios impossible to achieve without advanced understanding. Egyptian priests guarded these secrets fiercely, believing they were gifts from the gods, knowledge meant only for the chosen few. But history has a strange way of preserving whispers, and even after Egypt's old kingdoms fell, tales of hidden wisdom survived, passed from priest to scribe to traveler to wandering monk. Fast forward to the 12th century. Europe is cold, fragmented, and hungry for purpose. The Crusades erupt, and suddenly thousands of knights ride toward the Holy Land. Among them are 9 obscure French knights led by Hugues Dupins. They claim their mission is to protect pilgrims, but they have no armor, no money, no reputation. Yet within a decade, they become Europe's most powerful military order. How? Not even the Pope questioned it. And that is where things get interesting. When the Templars arrive in Jerusalem, they were given permission to live on the Temple Mount directly over the ruins of Solomon's Temple. But instead of guarding pilgrims, they spent 9 years digging. 9 silent years. No battles, no escorts, just digging under one of the most sacred sites in the ancient world. What were they looking for? Some historians say they uncovered ancient scrolls, documents linking Jewish mysticism, Egyptian priestly knowledge, and early esoteric teachings. Others believe they discovered a tunnel system, dating back not only to Solomon, but to the time when Egyptian exiles carried with them fragments of their secret sciences. A few accounts, written by Arabic chroniclers of the era, mention strange artifacts being transported out of the city under cover of night. They describe symbols resembling Egyptian solar emblems, mixed with early Christian marking symbols the Templars would later engrave into their churches. Across Europe, coincidence? Many doubt it. The Templars returned to Europe transformed. They suddenly possessed architectural knowledge far beyond their era. Their churches, known as round churches, mirrored not medieval design, but ancient geometric principles found in Egyptian temples and the Great Pyramid. Their banking system was so advanced it resembled early forms of financial networks used in the ancient Near East. Their rituals included references to the light, the architect, and the secret wisdom, phrases eerily similar to texts found in Egyptian funerary writings that describe divine knowledge granted only to those who pass the trials of the underworld. As Emily Carter, our fictional historian guide, in this long journey later discovered while researching their origins, the Templars were not merely warriors. They were collectors of ancient knowledge. Some scholars argue that the Templars saw themselves as guardians of a lineage that began long before Christianity, perhaps even before recorded history. And if this is true, their wealth and power suddenly makes sense. Knowledge is power. Ancient knowledge is unstoppable power. But every rise casts a shadow, and soon, kings began to fear what the Templars knew. King Philip IV of France, drowning in debt to the Templars, believed they held secrets that could undermine both crown and church. Whispers circulated that the Templars possessed forbidden texts from Egypt and the Holy Land texts that challenged official teachings. On Friday the 13th, 1307, Philip's soldiers arrested every Templar they could find. Many were tortured into confessing they had hidden knowledge, secret rites, and forbidden practices. Most historians today believe the confessions were forced, but the details of what the Templars actually found in Jerusalem were never recorded. Philip searched desperately for their archives, but they vanished without a trace. And here is where our story deepens. Some chroniclers claim a small group of Templars escaped France by sea, carrying chests filled not with gold, but with scrolls, relics, and coded manuscripts. The ships disappeared. No wrecks were found. No trace was left. But several centuries later, strange symbols identical to those used in ancient Egypt and the Templar order began appearing in places ranging from Scotland to the New World. Were these coincidences, or the footprints of knowledge the world wasn't ready for? Tonight, as we begin this 20-part journey, we will follow the hidden connections between ancient Egypt and the Knights Templar connections, buried in architecture, mathematics, astronomy, religion, and legend. Stay with us, because once we enter the labyrinth, every step leads deeper, and the truth waiting at the center is far more shocking than the myths. The desert night settled around her like a velvet cloak, warm yet laced with an unsettling chill. Dr. Eleanor Cross, the historian whose voice had just traced the fall of the Templars through the centuries, stood alone at the edge of the western desert, staring at a horizon that held far more questions than answers. Behind her, the desert research tent flickered with lamplight, its canvas walls trembling in the wind like something alive. Ahead of her lay an open stretch of sand, serene but deceptive, capable of hiding entire chapters of history beneath its shifting surface. Eleanor inhaled deeply, tasting dust and mystery on the air. She wasn't alone out there. Somewhere in the vast emptiness lay a truth buried for over 700 years. A truth that connected the Knights Templar to an Egyptian secret, so profound it had been protected by priests, kings, and crusader warriors alike. No textbook had ever mentioned the possibility. No museum dared to hint at it. Her discovery earlier that evening had changed everything. Before the desert winds could erase the last of the sunlight, she had unearthed something no historian had ever recorded. A small limestone tablet, etched with two symbols that had no earthly business appearing side by side. A Templar cross and the Eye of Horus. Side by side, carved by the same hand. She had stared at it for a full minute before her brain accepted what she was seeing. And now, hours later, the weight of that relic sat inside her tent, wrapped gently in linen like a fragile newborn truth. But it wasn't the artifact that kept her standing outside in the darkness. It was the feeling, a heavy, watchful presence, a sense she was being observed, not by animals, not by desert nomads, but by someone who had been waiting for her to find exactly what she found. She turned sharply. Nothing but the shifting sands. Yet the hair on her arms prickled. Eleanor used to laugh at stories about ancient guardians or cursed artifacts. She was a scholar, a rational mind, a woman who trusted evidence and logic above all. But digging into the connection between the Templars and Egypt had forced her into a world where logic alone wasn't enough. And tonight, something felt wrong. She walked back into the tent, letting the flap fall closed behind her. The glow of warm yellow light steadied her nerves slightly. Maps hung from the walls, annotated with her careful handwriting. A laptop hummed softly atop a crate, and there, on a wooden table, lay the linen-wrapped tablet. She sat down slowly, unwrapped it, The symbol stared back at her, bold, defiant, impossible. A Templar cross, the Eye of Horus. Templars had no recorded presence in Egypt before the Crusades. The Egyptian priesthood's most sacred knowledge had never left their inner sanctuaries. And yet, here they were, together. Why, she whispered. Her research suggested an old legend, a rumor dismissed by scholars, that the Templars had once protected a secret, not from the Middle Ages, but from a civilization far older. A secret passed to them by an Egyptian sect known as the Keepers of the Dawn. A legend claiming that these keepers held a knowledge so powerful, it could shape the fate of kingdoms. But legends were supposed to remain legends. Eleanor leaned closer. Tracing the edge of the engraving, she noticed something she had missed earlier. Faint marks along the bottom of the tablet, nearly invisible under dust and erosion. Not scratches, letters, old, ancient letters. Her heart quickened. She grabbed her notebook, sketching the lines as she brushed more dust from the stone. Bit by bit, the inscription revealed itself. Not Greek, not Latin, not Arabic, Coptic, a language tied to Egypt at the time of the early Christians, and potentially to the Templars themselves. She flipped frantic pages in her reference book until she found the matching alphabet. Transliteration took time, but the words slowly emerged. The ones who follow the morning star. She felt a shiver. The name again. The Keepers of the Dawn. She sat back, the weight of the revelation pressing into her chest. For years, archaeologists whispered theories about ancient councils guarding forbidden knowledge, about priesthoods who believed the divine and the earthly were connected by hidden forces. But she had never believed the stories could intersect with the Crusader Knights. And yet, this tablet proved they had. A sound outside made her freeze. Not wind, not shifting sand. Footsteps slow, careful, human. Her pulse hammered. She reached over, closed her laptop silently, and blew out the smallest lantern. The tent dimmed until only a sliver of moonlight filtered through the canvas. The footsteps grew closer. Crunch, crunch, crunch. She held perfectly still, willing her breath to quiet. The steps stopped directly outside her tent. Silence. Then a voice. Low, accented, controlled. Drive. Cross. We need to talk. Every muscle in her body tensed. No one knew she was here. No one except her university contact and the dig permit officer. Both trusted colleagues. So who was this? And how did they know her name? Don't be afraid. The voice continued. You found something that belongs to us. Her stomach dropped. The keepers, treasure hunters, government agents, a Templar descendant group. She remained silent. After a moment, the voice added, if you don't open the tent, others will. Others? Eleanor's heart pounded so loudly she worried they might hear it through the canvas. Slowly, she stood and moved toward the entrance. Her hand trembled as she unlatched the zipper and pushed the flap aside. Moonlight poured in, silver and sharp. A man stood there, tall, robed in light desert garments, his face partially shadowed beneath a hood. But his eyes, dark and intense, locked onto hers with unsettling precision. He didn't look like a looter. He didn't look like a scholar, either. He looked like someone who walked comfortably between worlds. The ancient and the modern, the known and the forbidden. Who are you? Eleanor whispered. He stepped toward her, stopping just beyond the threshold. My name isn't important, he said. But my order has watched your research for a long time. You've come dangerously close to uncovering truths protected for centuries. Eleanor swallowed. You mean the Templars? The man's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. The Templars were children compared to us. Her blood ran cold. What do you want? His eyes flicked past her, straight toward the table where the tablet lay. That, he said quietly. You have something that must never be revealed. The balance of the world depends on it. Eleanor stepped sideways, blocking his view of the relic. You're not taking it. He exhaled, almost sadly. You don't understand what you've awakened. Then explain it. His expression hardened. There is no time. As he stepped forward again, Eleanor noticed movement behind him. Two more figures emerging from the shadows. 3 against 1. Her breath hitched. The man looked at her one last time. "I didn't come here to harm you, but if you force my hand, the dessert will bury what's left." Before she could respond, a shout echoed from the ridge. Deep commanding, "Eleanor, get down." She dropped instantly. A flare burst across the night sky. Dust exploded as a vehicle roared over the dunes. The robed figure spun around. Eleanor lifted her head just enough to see headlights slashing across the darkness, cutting through the moonlit haze. Someone was coming for her. But who? And were they friend or enemy? The man in the hood glared down at her. "This is not over, Doctor. Cross." Then he vanished into the darkness as quickly and silently as he had appeared. Eleanor lay frozen in the sand, the roar of the engine growing louder, the ground trembling beneath her. Someone had just saved her, or interrupted something far worse. She didn't know yet, but she was about to find out. The deeper Dr. Eleanor Ward followed the trail left behind by the Templars. The more she felt a strange tension rising inside her, a pull somewhere between excitement and dread. The documents she uncovered in the Paris archives the night before were still echoing in her mind. Ancient maps, drawn centuries apart, but strangely identical. Marginal notes in Latin describing a gate beneath. The sand, and the last line, written in a hurried hand by a dying knight. "The desert holds what Jerusalem could not." No historian she knew had ever seen this letter, and the fact that it had been buried in a bundle of unrelated manuscripts told her one thing: someone had hidden it intentionally. As her flight touched down in Cairo, the warm air that rushed into the cabin felt like stepping into a living furnace. She'd been to Egypt many times, but this felt different. The weight of the Templars' secret, something valuable, enough for them to carry across continents, hung over her like a silent guardian. Outside the airport, the city buzzed with its usual mix of honking cars, hurried footsteps, and the scent of dust and spices swirling together. But Eleanor walked with purpose toward the taxi stand, her bag slung over one shoulder, her fingers gripping the handle like it contained something fragile. In a way, it did. The photocopies of the old maps and the knight's dying note were tucked safely inside. She gave the driver the name of a small hotel near Guise, not the tourist-backed kind, but one where the staff didn't ask questions and the walls had seen centuries of secrets. As the taxi sped through the chaotic Cairo streets, Eleanor looked out at the silhouettes of minarets and aged rooftops, all rising and falling like waves on an ancient sea. The past was everywhere in this city, not just preserved in museums, but woven into the daily breath of life. That always made her feel both humbled and electrified. Once she checked into her room, she locked the door, pulled the curtains tight, and spread the maps across the bed. They didn't match modern Egypt. Large sections of the Nile's course were wrong. Deserts extended where cities now existed, and one drawing showed a massive structure that didn't appear on any historical record. The Templars had drawn something in the western dunes, a place they called the Chamber of Horizon. Her eyes traced the Latin notes, an inheritance not ours, but entrusted to us by the descendants of the first builders. Eleanor whispered the words under her breath, "the first builders." That was a phrase she knew well, one often referenced by Egyptian priests when describing the mythical architects said to have designed sacred sites. Long before the pharaohs walked the earth, mainstream archaeology dismissed such claims as myth, but Eleanor had learned early in her career that myths were often truths wearing disguises. She was still examining the sketches when her phone buzzed. It was a number she didn't recognize. She let it ring twice before answering. "Dr. Ward," a man's voice asked, smooth, accentless. "Who is this?" She replied, "Someone who suggests you stop searching." Her heart skipped. "I don't know what you're talking about." The man let out a faint breath, almost amused. "You know exactly. Do not go into the desert. Do not follow the maps. The Templar path was abandoned for a reason." Then the call ended. Eleanor stared at the phone, her pulse hammering. She had received warnings before competitors, French conspiracy theorists, even well-meaning colleagues, but this was different. Whoever he was, he knew why she was here. She wasn't alone in this chase, but fear had never been her compass. She gathered her notes, folded the maps, and slipped them into her satchel. If someone wanted to stop her, it meant she was closer than she realized. She opened her laptop and searched for the one person she trusted completely in Egypt, an old friend, a desert explorer named Samir Khalid. Samir had guided countless archaeological teams through the harshest corners of the Sahara, and unlike most guides, he didn't ask why a destination mattered. He simply got people there alive. Within minutes, Samir replied to her message, "Meet me at sunrise." Same place as before. Elena closed the laptop, exhaled slowly, and tried to calm the storm inside her. Sunrise was only a few hours away. She hardly slept when dawn finally spread a pale golden light across the skyline. Elena grabbed her bag and made her way quietly through the quiet streets. A small cafe on the edge of Giza was already opening its shutters when she saw Samir waving from a corner table. He looked the same as always, weathered face, steady eyes, scarf wrapped around his neck like armor against the desert. "You look like trouble," he said with a grin. "I need to go west," she said. His smile faded. "How far west?" "Past the known sites, into the uncharted dunes." Samir raised an eyebrow. "That is not archaeology. That is something else." She slid one of the maps to him. His expression changed instantly. "Templars." "Yes." He leaned back, rubbed his forehead, and muttered, "I should have ignored your message." But he didn't walk away. Instead, he folded the map and said, "We leave in 1 hour." They reached the desert edge by mid-morning. The sand stretched endlessly, shimmering like liquid gold under the burning sun. The vehicle Samir brought was built for survival: reinforced tires, extra fuel tanks, and enough water for days. As they drove deeper, Cairo faded behind them, swallowed by the rising dunes. Time slowed. The world became nothing but wind, heat, and the hum of the engine. Several hours passed before Elena noticed Samir glance repeatedly at the mirror. "What is it?" she asked. "We are not alone," he said. She twisted around. A dust trail far behind them to another vehicle, too far to identify, but not far enough to dismiss. Her skin prickled. The phone call, the warning. Someone was following them. But there was no turning back now. The truth, whatever it was, waited somewhere under the desert sands, where the Templars had buried secrets powerful enough to cross continents and centuries, and Elena was determined to uncover it before whoever shadowed them caught up. The farther they traveled into the desert, the more the world behind them dissolved into nothingness. The dunes became taller, the valleys between them deeper, and the sunlight harsher. By midday, the heat turned the air into a shimmering veil. Elena pressed her hand against the window, watching the horizon ripple as if the desert itself were breathing. Behind them, the dust trail still followed, always distant, never disappearing. Whoever was tailing them knew how to survive the desert too. That alone worried her more than she let on. Samir kept both hands on the wheel, his eyes scanning the landscape like a man reading an ancient script written in sand. "They're pacing us," he muttered. "Not gaining, not losing. That means they want to watch." Elena turned toward him. "Watch for what?" He shook his head. "Either to see where you're going, or to see if the desert kills us first." The silence that followed felt heavy, like another presence sitting in the back seat. By late afternoon, the dunes began to shift in color. The deep gold softened into pale ivory, an unusual transition that caught Samir's attention. "We're entering old territory," he said. "You won't find this on tourist maps." Elena felt a tremor of excitement. Old territory meant less disturbance, fewer modern footprints. If the Templars had hidden something out here, this was the kind of place they would have chosen. "Are you sure the map leads this way?" Samir asked, slowing the vehicle as the sand grew softer. Elena unfolded the old parchment and compared the contour strokes with the dunes rising around them. The resemblance wasn't perfect. The desert was alive, constantly reshaping itself, but one landmark matched unmistakably. A three-tiered ridge rising like a staircase carved by giants. "There," she said, pointing. The Templars drew the ridge exactly. Samir stared for a moment. "Then we camp there. The light will be gone soon." They stopped at the base of the ridge as the sun dipped low. throwing long shadows across the sand. While Samir set up a small windshield and checked the vehicle, Elena climbed a short distance up the rocks. From the vantage point, she could see the endless desert stretching in all directions. The silence felt ancient, almost sentient, as if the land recognized her presence. She knelt and examined a cluster of stones near her feet. They weren't random, they were arranged deliberately, 3 stones in a line, each marked with faint carvings barely visible in the dimming light. She brushed sand away, revealing a shape that made her heart jolt. A cross, simple, not ornate, not Egyptian. A Templar cross. Samir, she shouted. He climbed up beside her and froze when he saw it. This shouldn't be here, he whispered. They never came this far south, apparently. She said. They did. They spent the next hour searching the ridge as darkness fell around them, using small lanterns. They discovered more carved stones, some half buried, others worn almost smooth by time. The pattern formed a loose path leading toward a narrow crevice. In the ridge, Samir studied the opening with suspicion. Something is down there. Exactly why we have to go in, Elena said. Samir sighed deeply. I know I said I trust your instincts, but there are limits. If you want to wait outside, I'll go alone. He glared. You say that knowing I will never let you go alone. She smiled faintly. They prepared to enter the crevice, but before they stepped forward, Elena paused. She felt something, a sensation, not fear, not excitement, but recognition. As if the place itself remembered the touch of the last people who walked this path centuries ago. The Templars had left a trail, and they had meant for someone to find it. They squeezed into the crevice, descending carefully as the walls narrowed. Their lanterns cast trembling shadows against the stone. The air was cooler here, carrying a faint scent that didn't belong to the desert's ancient dust, old stone, and something metallic. After a few minutes of careful climbing, the passage widened abruptly, opening into a chamber carved into the rock. Elena exhaled in awe. The walls were covered in inscriptions, not Arabic, not purely Egyptian. A hybrid script Latin interwoven with hieroglyphs. Samir lifted his lantern. Higher. What is this place? Elena moved toward the wall, tracing the carvings with trembling fingers. A meeting of worlds, she whispered. This isn't just a hideout. This was a collaboration. Samir frowned. Between who? Between the Templars and an Egyptian priesthood. Samir stared at her. Templars and Egyptians, centuries apart. Not if what the legends say is true. She said, some priesthood survived far beyond the fall of the kingdoms. Hidden quiet, and the Templars well. They searched for knowledge older than scripture. She stepped back from the wall. This chamber proves they found it. Then something caught her eye in the far corner. A stone pedestal. She approached slowly, her breath quickening. This covered the top, but when she wiped it away, a carved emblem appeared, another Templar cross, encircled by a serpent. Samir leaned over her shoulder. What does it mean? Protection, she said softly. And warning, suddenly. A sound echoed from the crevice above. Not the wind, not an animal. Footsteps. Samir stiffened. They're here. Elena grabbed her satchel, stuffed the nearest parchment rubbing into it, and extinguished her lantern. The chamber plunged into darkness except for Samir's faint remaining light. We need to hide, he said. They ducked behind a fallen slab just as figures entered the crevice, 3 of them, carrying their own lights. Elena recognized the silhouette of one, immediately the man with the accentless voice from the phone. Her pulse raced. The man scanned the chamber slowly, his eyes glinting. She's here, he said. Find her. The Templar's secret cannot be uncovered. Elena pressed her back against the stone, breath shallow, heart pounding. This wasn't just a shadowy academic rival. These were people willing to cross a deadly desert to stop her, and they were close to close. Samir tightened his grip on the small blade he carried for emergencies. Elena's hand brushed the edge of the pedestal. Something shifted beneath her fingers, a latch. She froze. A hidden mechanism. A way out, or another trap. She had no choice. She pressed the latch. The floor beneath them trembled, then dropped. They plunged into darkness as the ancient chamber split open. carrying them deeper beneath the sands, into whatever secret the Templars had buried here. The fall lasted only a second or two, but it felt like forever. Elena's stomach lurched as the stone platform collapsed beneath them, sending her and Samir sliding down a steep chute carved long ago into the mountain's belly. Sand and dust billowed around them as they tumbled, their lantern smashed somewhere along the descent. When they finally hit ground, it was with a jarring thud that left Elena breathless and blinking through the dark. For a moment, neither spoke. Elena groaned softly, testing her limbs. Nothing broken. Samir coughed beside her, spitting out dust. "Next time," he said hoarsely, "warn me before you open ancient death chutes." She laughed weakly despite the panic still thundering in her chest. It was either fall or get caught. Samir looked up toward the chute. Far above, faint voices echoed as their pursuers searched the chamber. "At least we bought ourselves time," he whispered. Eventually, Elena's eyes adjusted enough to distinguish shapes in the dimness. They were in a cavern not natural, but carved with precision. Smooth walls, curved arches. It resembled a sanctuary. She fumbled through her satchel and pulled out a small LED emergency light. When she clicked it on, the room blossomed into visibility, and both of them froze. They were surrounded by murals vast, detailed murals stretching along the cavern walls. Elena rose slowly, her breath catching in awe. "Samir, do you see what I'm seeing?" He stepped forward, eyes wide. This is impossible." The murals appeared to depict the journey-robed figures carrying chests across desert dunes, meeting Egyptian priests in ceremonial robes, exchanging scrolls, standing before massive temple structures long lost to time. And in the center of one panel, illuminated by Elena's small LED light, stood a stylized figure in chainmail with a red cross painted on his chest. A Knight Templar. Elena moved closer. "This isn't just a record. It's a chronicle," Samir pointed. "Look there." In another scene, Templars and Egyptians stood around a circular object large, intricate, covered in symbols. A device of some kind. Not an artifact, something more. Elena swallowed hard. If this is accurate, the Templars didn't just visit Egypt, they partnered with a remnant priesthood. They shared knowledge. Samir traced part of the mural with his fingers. But for what? Trade? Faith? Power? Elena shook her head. Something bigger. Something worth hiding. She moved down the mural line and stopped at the final panel. The imagery darkened. Figures hiding the circular device deep beneath the desert. Lines showing its burial place being marked by celestial symbols, constellations. Planetary alignments. A warning glyph below read, "Only under the same sky that birthed it shall it be awakened." Samir frowned. "What does that mean?" Elena's voice tightened. "It means the object, whatever it is, depends on the stars. Like a lock that only opens once every few thousand years." Samir's eyes widened. "And what if that time is now?" Elena didn't answer. Her gaze drifted to the far end of the cavern, where a massive stone door carved with layers of symbols waited like a sentinel guarding secrets, older than recorded history. Before they could approach, the cavern trembled lightly, a vibration through the stone floor. Samir tensed. They found the chute. Elena extinguished the LED light instantly. Darkness swallowed them, but it was safer than a glowing beacon. A faint scraping echoed above. Boots against stone. They were coming. Elena grabbed Samir's hand and whispered, "The door. It might open. We don't know how." He whispered back, "We have to try." They hurried toward it, feeling the carved surface beneath their fingertips. The symbols were arranged in concentric rings, each movable. A locking mechanism. Elena's heart raced. "It's a star map," she whispered. "The rings. They rotate to match constellations." Samir whispered sharply, "We don't have time for riddles." But Elena's mind was already working. She remembered the final panel, "Only under the same sky that birthed it shall it be awakened." "Samir," she said quickly, "this chamber was built when certain constellations aligned. We need to match those same patterns. And you know what that alignment looked like because the mural showed it." She used one hand to guide the rings, the other to feel the etched stars. Samir watched anxiously as she turned the outer ring, then the inner one. The cavern echoed again louder now. Voices. Flashlights glimmered at the top of the chute. They had seconds. Elena twisted the final ring into place. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a deep click reverberated through the stone. The door shuttered split and began to open inward with a groan of great age. Samir exhaled in relief. Move. They slipped inside just as light from above spilled across the cavern. The figures descended rapidly, their voices sharp and urgent. Elena pulled the stone door from the inside, sealing the gap until only a sliver of their lantern glow remained. Then silence. The door sealed shut. They were alone again in darkness. Elena clicked the lead back on, and the chamber before them was revealed. It was enormous, larger than any catacomb or tomb either had seen. The air felt ancient, undisturbed for centuries. Thick pillars carved with hybrid script held up a ceiling painted with constellations. And at the far center of the chamber rested a raised platform, upon which sat the circular object from the murals. Not a chest, not a tablet, a device massive, metallic, built of interlocking rings and mechanisms. Part machine, part relic, its surface shimmered faintly, as if reacting to their presence. Elena stared, speechless. Samira whispered, "What is that?" Elena approached slowly, heart pounding. A Templar Egyptian creation, she breathed, something they protected so fiercely. They vanished to keep it safe. Samir looked around the chamber uneasily. And if those men outside want it, whatever this thing does, it must be powerful. Elena touched the device. It hummed faintly, alive, reacting. Then something unexpected happened. The rings began to shift not violently, but with slow, deliberate motion. Elena stepped back in alarm. "I didn't activate anything." Samir's eyes widened. "Maybe you didn't. Maybe it responds to presence, or to a moment it has been waiting for." The device's center opened like an iris, revealing an inner chamber filled with engraved metal scrolls. Elena recognized the symbols immediately: hybrid script, instructions, knowledge. Samir. She whispered, voice trembling. This could rewrite everything we know about early civilizations. And that's why they want it. Samir said, knowledge is more dangerous than weapons. Eleanor reached toward the scrolls, her fingers inches away. A deafening boom shook the chamber. The stone door behind them cracked. Their pursuers were breaking in. The night deepened around the desert camp. A thin crescent moon hovered over the dunes like a silver blade, and the wind swept low, whispering through the tents as if carrying voices older than history. Eleanor didn't sleep. She couldn't. Her mind kept circling back to Layla's words. The Templars didn't just take treasure. They took power the kind kings would kill for. She sat near the fading fire, hugging a wool blanket around her shoulders. The coals glowed like dying stars, and beyond them, the desert stretched endlessly, quiet and watchful. Every shadow felt alive. Across from her, John scribbled notes by lantern light, the warm glow, softening the sharp angles of his face. Liam snored somewhere deeper in the tent, blissfully ignorant of the weight pressing on everyone else. It's strange, isn't it? John finally said without looking up. All this time, the Templars were painted as soldiers of God, when maybe they were guarding something far older, far darker. Eleanor sighed. I don't think they were guarding it. I think they were using it. John closed his notebook gently. Then the real question isn't what the Templars found. It's why did they hide it? Before Eleanor could respond, Layla stepped out of the shadows, her long scarf fluttering behind her. The desert wind carried dust around her feet like a swirling veil. You didn't need to see something, she said quietly. Eleanor instantly felt her stomach tighten. Layla's tone wasn't dramatic. It was frightened. They followed her to the edge of the camp where the moonlight revealed a structure. Half buried in the sand, something neither Eleanor nor John had seen earlier. It wasn't a ruin. It was a carved stone entrance, perfectly rectangular, perfectly aligned with the stars, and disturbingly intact. Eleanor crouched, brushing sand from the stone surface. Her fingers traced lines and symbols cut with an impossible precision. They look Egyptian, she whispered. But different. Layla nodded. Not Egyptian dynasty, pre-dynastic, before the pharaohs, before the writing we know. John knelt beside them, his flashlight sweeping across the carvings. Suddenly he stopped. "Wait, that..." He leaned closer. His voice grew shaky. "That's a Templar cross." Eleanor froze. Impossible. But there it was, faded but unmistakable, the red cross of the Knights Templar, carved into stone thousands of years, older than their existence. None of them spoke, because there was only one possible explanation. The Templars hadn't left their mark on ancient Egypt. They had rediscovered something the Egyptians had found long before. Something the Egyptians feared so much they tried to bury it deeper than their own gods. And the Templars dug it back up. Layla broke the silence. Egyptologists know about pre-dynastic cultures, but records are scarce. There were rumors of a cult of the rising sun, a group who believed light wasn't a symbol of life, but a doorway. A doorway to what? John asked. Layla looked over her shoulder, her face pale in the moonlight. To realms humans were never meant to touch. Eleanor felt a chill crawl up her spine. "We go in at dawn," she declared softly. Layla didn't argue, she only nodded, her eyes dark with worry. Dawn came slowly, washing the dunes in gold. Eleanor adjusted her headlamp and descended the narrow stone passage first. The air inside was cool, untouched for centuries. Dust floated like ancient spirits, illuminated by the thin beams of light. The passage walls were carved with strange symbols, swirling lines, interlocking spirals, geometric shapes that seemed almost mathematical. Eleanor spoke quietly, her voice echoing down the stone corridor. "These patterns aren't decorative. They're precise, deliberate, almost like instructions." John ran his fingers across another symbol. "Eleanor, this looks like the flower of life." She spun to face him. "That symbol doesn't appear until thousands of years later." John nodded slowly. "Which means whoever carved this knew things humans weren't supposed to know yet." They walked deeper, and the deeper they went, the stranger the carvings became. They no longer resembled Egyptian symbols. They were older, more abstract, and the deeper carvings glowed faintly when hit by their lights. "What kind of stone is this?" John whispered. Layla shook her head. "It's not any stone I recognize." Then the narrow passage opened into a chamber. Eleanor gasped. The room was circular, domed like a miniaturized planetarium. Lines crisscrossed the ceiling, connecting dozens of small carved points. John lifted his light. "Upward." "Oh my God," he whispered. "It's a star map, but not of the night sky they knew." The constellations were unfamiliar shapes that didn't exist in any known sky, not even ancient ones. Eleanor walked slowly toward the center of the chamber. A raised stone pedestal stood in the middle. Something rested on top of it under a layer of dust. Her heartbeat quickened. She brushed the dust away. A small, rectangular slab of metal gleamed beneath, black, smooth, impossibly preserved. It wasn't Egyptian, and it wasn't medieval. It looked alien. John took an involuntary step back. "Eleanor, don't touch it." But Eleanor couldn't help herself. Something about the object called to her softly but irresistibly. Like a whispered memory she never lived. She placed her hand on the surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the room trembled. Layla shouted, "Eleanor, step back." But her hand was pulled against the object by a force that wasn't physical. Light shot through the carvings on the walls, turning them into glowing rivers of energy. The chamber hummed with a deep, vibrating sound that felt like it came from inside their bones. Eleanor's mind exploded with images. A desert before history, where priests in animal skins worshiped the rising sun. A blazing orb descending from the sky, landing with a thunderous shock. Figures emerging tall, luminous, silent, offering knowledge that burned like fire. The Egyptians burying the object, terrified of its power. The Templars uncovering it again, believing it sacred. Centuries of bloodshed to keep it hidden. Then a final image appeared. A city buried under sand one Eleanor recognized from photographs and satellite maps. A city the world believed lost forever. Zerzura. Eleanor's hand released. She collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. John rushed to her side. "What did you see?" Eleanor wiped tears from her eyes. The Templars weren't searching for treasure. They were running from something they awakened, and they hid it in Zerzura. Layla paled. Zerzura isn't real. Eleanor looked up, her voice trembling. It is, and we're going to find it because whatever the Templars brought back, it's waking up again. And in the silent chamber beneath the sand, far older than Egypt and far more dangerous than the Templars ever understood, something pulsed, as if it heard her, as if it was waiting. The chamber's humming slowly faded, like a great engine winding down. Eleanor staggered to her feet, her limbs weak, her vision still flickering with after-images. John steadied her with both hands. "You shouldn't have touched it," he whispered, voice trembling. Eleanor swallowed hard. "I didn't choose to. It pulled me." Layla swept her flashlight once more across the room, her expression strained. "We need to leave. Right now. This place isn't meant to be open." But Eleanor shook her head, the dizziness beginning to fade. "No doubt we need to document everything before we lose our chance. No one else knows this chamber exists." John gave a nervous glance at the humming pedestal. "There's probably a reason for that." Eleanor walked to the wall where the star map glowed faintly. Her fingers traced the pattern she'd seen in her vision. An alignment of 5 unknown constellations pointing toward a desert region, marked by a triangular symbol. "I saw this," she whispered. "And the vision," Layla's voice tightened. "It doesn't look Egyptian." "It's not." Eleanor stepped back. "It's Zerzura." The name alone sent a cold ripple through the chamber, as if the walls could sense the word and recoiled. John shook his head. "Zerzura is just a myth." Eleanor turned slowly. "So were Troy, Machu Picchu, and Göbekli Tepe, until someone found them." Silence settled over the room. Even the desert wind outside fell still. Layla crossed her arms tightly. "Do you understand what you're talking about?" Zerzura was the White City. Explorers searched for centuries and never found it. Some said it was a mirage. Others said it was cursed. Eleanor stared at the glowing lines. "And the Templars found it. Or at least, they thought they did." John glanced at the pedestal again. "What about the object? If it's some kind of technology, ancient or otherwise, we can't just leave it here." Eleanor shook her head. "We're not touching it again. Whatever it is, the Egyptians feared it. The Templars exploited it. And we barely survived being in the same room with it." She exhaled slowly. "We take photos, notes, then we leave." Outside, the sun had climbed high, pouring golden heat across the desert. Liam was pacing near the tents, his face tight with worry. Finally, he snapped when he saw them. "Why didn't anyone answer the radio?" "I thought something happened. Something did happen," John muttered. Liam's eyes darted between their exhausted faces. "What did you find?" Eleanor hesitated. She didn't want to share everything, not yet. Some truths needed careful handling. "A chamber, with carvings and symbols older than anything we've ever documented." Liam frowned. "How old?" "Pre-dynastic," Layla replied. "Maybe far older." Liam's jaw dropped. "You're joking." "We don't joke about this," John said. Eleanor forced a calmer tone. "We'll review the data tonight. For now, pack up. We're moving camp." Moving, Liam blinked. "Where?" She pointed toward the endless dunes to the west, to where the star map points. Liam scoffed. "Eleanor, you're talking about chasing a mythical city." Eleanor looked him square in the eyes. "It's not a myth." She said it with such certainty even she felt the power of her own conviction. The images she'd seen in the vision were too detailed, too structured to be a hallucination. A city with white stone walls and towering gates. A hidden oasis glowing under an impossible sky, and a source of power buried beneath it, pulsing like a heartbeat. They spent the afternoon packing equipment. Eleanor kept catching glimpses of the deserts, horizon flat and shimmering under the brutal heat. Yet beneath the shimmering veil, she imagined something alive, something waiting. As they worked, John pulled her aside. "You're different since touching the thing," he murmured. Eleanor paused. "Different how?" "You're sharper dot focused. Like you know where you're going." She looked away. "Because I do." John frowned. "Is that you talking? Or whatever was in that vision?" A cold knot formed in her chest. "I don't know," she admitted softly. But deep down, she feared the answer. That evening, As the sun sank into a blood-orange haze, they set out across the dunes into rugged jeeps. Sand roared beneath the tires, and the air smelled dry and ancient, like the breath of a sleeping world. Layla navigated using a set of coordinates Eleanor scribbled from memory. John kept checking the map, occasionally muttering, "This area isn't charted. There's nothing out here." Eleanor stared ahead, feeling the pull grow stronger the farther they drove. It was as if an invisible thread connected her to something beyond the horizon. Hours passed. The desert shifted from gold to purple, then into a near-black void under a sky filled with stars. The constellations twinkled with icy clarity, silent witnesses to civilizations long vanished. Suddenly Layla slowed the jeep. "Look," she whispered. At first, Eleanor saw nothing, just darkness. Then shapes materialized sharp. Jagged silhouettes rising from the sand. Ruins. Massive stone blocks. Toppled columns. And eroded fragments spread across the landscape like the bones of a giant. The moonlight brushed white across their surfaces, making them glow faintly. John's breath caught. "No way." Liam gaped. "This can't be Zerzura. It's not the city itself." Eleanor said quietly, "It's the outskirts. A settlement. Maybe a way station." They stepped out into the cold desert night. The wind hissed through the ruins, sending fine sand swirling around ancient stones. Eleanor ran her hand across a pillar. It was marble white, smooth, impossibly well preserved. Layla whispered, "This architecture, it's not Egyptian." "No," Eleanor said. "It's older." John flicked on his flashlight, illuminating a low archway carved into the largest structure. "There's something inside." Eleanor dug through the arch. Her light swept across the interior and she froze. The chamber walls were painted with murals, faded but unmistakable. Murals of white-robed figures with strange elongated heads. Murals of a shining orb descending from the sky. Murals of men in armor, Templar armor, standing before a massive white gate. John whispered behind her, "Eleanor, this is a record. A timeline." Layla stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Are you saying the Templars found Zerzura?" Eleanor shook her head slowly. "No. I think the Egyptians found it first, and the Templars followed their path." John swallowed. "Then the obvious question is, what happened to them?" Eleanor lifted her light toward the final mural. It showed a city of blinding white stone, being swallowed by darkness. A darkness shaped like a living shadow, a serpent of night and void. Layla whispered, "What is that?" Eleanor's voice trembled. "I don't know, but it's still out there," as if in answer. A low rumble echoed from somewhere deep beneath the sands. Not thunder, not wind. Something else. Something waking. Something ancient. The rumble faded as quickly as it came, slipping back into the desert floor like a whisper swallowed by deep time. But Eleanor felt it in her bones, an echo that did not belong to geology. Something beneath them had stirred. John broke the silence first. "Tell me that was an earthquake." Layla shook her head. "No, earthquakes don't stop that suddenly, and they don't sound alive." Eleanor ran her hand across the final mural again, the serpent-like shadow swallowing the city of white stone. This was a warning. She stepped back and scanned the murals again. The Egyptians must have encountered something in the desert, something powerful enough to reshape their beliefs, something the Templars desperately wanted. Liam snorted nervously. Or something they should have never gone near. Eleanor didn't respond. Her attention was locked on a smaller symbol painted below the mural, a spiral of interlocking triangles, glowing faintly under the flashlight. She'd seen it before, etched on the pedestal in the mountain chamber. "This symbol," she whispered, "it ties the Egyptians and Templars together. It might represent the artifact itself." John crouched beside her. "So this settlement, what? A base camp? A research outpost?" "More like a warning outpost," Eleanor said, "trying to keep people away from whatever destroyed Zerzura." Layla folded her arms tightly. "Then maybe we should be smart enough to listen." Eleanor exhaled. "We've already gone too far to stop outside the ruins." The moon had risen high, bathing the desert in a pale glow. The air grew colder, dry, and sharp, like the breath of something ancient sliding across the dunes. Liam unpacked the portable lamps, setting them around the ruins to ward off the darkness. John checked the equipment. Signal's still dead. No radio. No satellite. Layla winced. Great. So we're alone with whatever's under us. Eleanor surveyed the horizon. The dunes stretched infinitely. Soft waves of silver and shadow. Yet the more she watched, the more she felt something shifting beneath their calm surface. Something vast and buried. We rest here, she said. At first light, we follow the direction of the murals. The real city is farther west. Liam dropped into a folding chair. Perfect. Because nothing bad ever happens to people who ignore ancient warnings. John shot him a look. You're free to walk back to Cairo. Liam shut up immediately. Later that night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. The desert was quiet to quiet. The kind of quiet where even the wind dared not breathe. The lamps cast long, trembling shadows across the ruins. The murals seemed to move in the flickering light, twisting like memories waking from a long sleep. Eleanor stepped outside her tent and saw Layla sitting on a stone block, staring at the sky. You okay? Eleanor asked softly. Layla didn't look away from the stars. My grandmother used to tell stories about the White City, a place protected by spirits older than Egypt. She said the desert kept its secrets because some truths aren't meant for us. Eleanor joined her. Do you regret coming? Layla hesitated. No, but I think you're not telling us everything. Eleanor inhaled sharply. I saw something when I touched the artifact. A vision? Layla's eyes widened. You didn't tell us that. I wasn't sure it was real, Eleanor admitted. But the murals confirm it. I saw the city of Zerzura. And something else. Layla turned fully toward her. What did you see? Eleanor's eyes drifted toward the dunes. A shadow. A force that consumed the city. Not a creature. Not a natural disaster. Something more deliberate. Layla's voice dropped. Like a consciousness, exactly. A cold silence settled between them. Then Layla whispered, and you still want to go there? I don't think I have a choice. Eleanor said, something is pulling me forward. Layla studied her face. That's what scares me. Near dawn. Eleanor heard it again, the low rumble, like a distant growl. She bolted upright. John and Liam were already outside their tents, flashlights sweeping the dunes. Layla joined them moments later. Tell me you guys heard that, John said. Liam pointed toward the western dunes. It came from that direction. Same as before. Layla shivered. Something is moving underground. Eleanor grabbed her pack. We move now. Before the heat rises. Liam groaned. Great. Let's go walk toward the giant murderous underground thing. But none of them stayed behind. They trekked for hours, climbing dune after dune. The sun glared down like a burning coin in a white sky. Their boots sank deep into shifting sand. Every so often, the ground vibrated the faintest tremor, like the desert was breathing beneath them. John wiped the sweat from his forehead. How far is this place supposed to be? Eleanor glanced at the horizon. Close. Layla muttered. Your clothes better not mean another 20 miles. Suddenly Eleanor stopped. A massive dune in front of them shuddered. The sand rippled outward in a perfect circle. Then another, as if something huge were surfacing. Beneath it, John instinctively pulled Eleanor back. Okay. That's not normal. The dune collapsed inward, revealing a cavernous sinkhole. Sand poured into it like water down a drain. Liam stared, horrified. What the hell is happening? When the sand finally settled, a structure emerged, white stone reflecting the sunlight like polished bone. A slanted roof, carved. Pillars. A stairway descending into darkness. Layla gasped. A temple? Eleanor stepped forward. Her pulse racing. Not a temple. She pointed to the faint carvings on the pillars, spirals of interlocking triangles. The entrance to Zerzura. A warm wind rose from the opening, carrying a smell that didn't belong to any desert. Fresh water, lotus blossoms, and something metallic. John swallowed. Why would a breeze come from underground? Eleanor's voice shook. Because the city isn't dead. Layla backed away. Eleanor, something made that sinkhole appear. Something opened this entrance for us. Eleanor stared at the dark passage ahead. I think it's been waiting. And then, from deep within the stone stairwell, came a sound, a low, resonant hum. The same sound as the artifact, growing louder and stronger. Awakening. Eleanor took the first step downward. The others followed, fear battling curiosity in their eyes. Behind them, the desert closed in, silent and watchful. Ahead of them, something ancient breathed them in. The stairway sloped downward at an angle so steep it felt less like a human-made descent, and more like the throat of a great stone beast swallowing them whole. Their flashlights carved thin tunnels of white light through the darkness, illuminating walls carved with symbols they did not recognize, neither hieroglyphs nor Templar markings, but spirals and angled lines that seemed to twist as the beams passed over them. Liam's voice sounded thin, swallowed by the dark. "I hate this. I just want that on the record." John whispered, "Your complaint is noted." But even he sounded uneasy. Eleanor kept descending, one hand grazing the wall, following the carvings as if they were guiding her. Layla watched her closely, as if afraid Eleanor might suddenly disappear into the stone. The deeper they went, the stronger the hum grew, a steady vibration that traveled up their boots and into their bones. After what felt like 20 minutes, the staircase widened, opening into a colossal underground chamber. Their flashlights caught the faint outline of pillars, hundreds of them vanishing into the dark heights above like a ghostly forest of stone. Layla exhaled in awe. This is impossible. How did they build something this big underground? John aimed his light upward. Forget building it. How did it stay hidden for thousands of years? Eleanor stepped further in. Her voice was almost reverent, because they didn't want it found. A deep pool occupied the center of the chamber, its surface eerily still, reflecting their lights in ripples of pale silver. Despite being underground, the water smelled fresh, cleaner than any oasis. The air here wasn't stale. It was cool, alive. Liam knelt beside the pool. "Is this spring water?" Layla crouched beside him. "It must be fed by an aquifer. That would explain the humidity." Eleanor approached the edge and noticed something unusual. Look, carved at the bottom, beneath the clear water, was the spiral of interlocking triangles, the same symbol etched onto the pedestal, the murals, and the entrance pillars. John whistled. "That symbol is everywhere." Layla frowned. "It's not Egyptian, not Templar. So who created it?" Eleanor didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on something beyond the pool, a second staircase, descending even deeper. She felt the pull again, a tug behind her chest, as if an invisible thread were tied to her ribs. Drawing her forward, John noticed her drifting toward it. "Eleanor, hey, slow down." She stopped abruptly. "Sorry. Something feels familiar." Layla's voice was soft but tense. "That's what scares us." They circled the pool, heading toward the second staircase. Strange tiles covered the floor, hexagonal stones arranged in patterns that seemed random. Until Eleanor stepped back and saw it. "Everyone turn off your flashlights." They hesitated. "Trust me." One by one, the beams dropped away, and faintly, very faintly, a glow rose from the tiles. John whispered, "Is that phosphorescent?" Layla shook her head in disbelief. No natural mineral glows like that. This was engineered. Eleanor knelt, brushing her fingers across the glowing pattern. The design wasn't random at all. It formed something like a map or a diagram, a layout of the city beneath them, a central chamber, radiating corridors, and at the heart an enormous circle marked with a spiral symbol. Liam pointed. "That must be where the artifact belongs." John nodded slowly. "Which means whatever we've seen so far, this isn't the city. This is just the entrance hall." Eleanor agreed. "The real Zerzura is below." They turned the flashlights back on, and Eleanor took the first step toward the deeper staircase. That was when they heard it, a whisper, not a voice, more like a soft rustle, like dry leaves dragged across stone, but slow and deliberate. Liam froze. "Tell me that was someone's jacket." John raised his light. Nobody moved. The rustling came again, louder this time, circling them. Layla whispered, "Something's here with us." Eleanor's pulse skyrocketed. She slowly aimed her light toward the far side of the chamber. Between two pillars, something moved. A figure, tall, thin, pale, just for a second then gone. Liam backed up until he nearly tripped into the pool. No, absolutely not. John steadied him to stay close. Layla looked ready to bolt. What did you see? Eleanor swallowed. Not sure. Truthfully, she was sure. It looked human, but not entirely. Its limbs were too long. Its movements as smooth, like water flowing through a vessel. John scanned the darkness. If there's someone here, they've been down here for centuries, and that's not possible. Eleanor shook her head. Not someone. Something. The hum beneath their feet deepened, vibrating the stone. Layla whispered, Eleanor, this place isn't abandoned, is it? Eleanor stared into the darkness. No, it's alive. They reached the second staircase, and as they began to descend, the whispers followed, soft, circling, curious. Not threatening yet, Liam whispered, it knows we're here. John tightened his grip on his flashlight. Let's just focus on getting to the main chamber. But Eleanor felt the hum in her bones, stronger now, resonant, like a heartbeat responding to her presence. Down the spiral stairs they went, deeper, colder. The air thickened, tinged with a metallic taste. When they reached the bottom, the passage opened into another chamber smaller, but intricately decorated. Relief carvings covered every wall, depicting scenes nothing like Egyptian mythology. Eleanor whispered breathlessly, This is not Egyptian art. This is something older. Layla touched the carvings. Older than Egypt. That's impossible. Eleanor stepped forward, eyes tracing the images, figures kneeling, hands raised to a floating orb. An orb with the same spiral symbol swirling at its center. John frowned. They worshipped it. Eleanor nodded slowly, or feared it. A chill blew through the chamber, though no wind should exist this deep underground. The whispers grew louder, and then a voice. Not quite human, not quite separate from the hum. It echoed inside Eleanor's skull. Welcome back, she staggered. Layla rushed to her. Eleanor. What happened? Eleanor's lips trembled. It spoke to me. Liam's face drained. What did it say? Eleanor lifted her eyes slowly, haunted, knowing. It said, welcome back. The chamber trembled. The hum became a pulse. And the ancient city of Zerzur awakened. The deeper Michael and Claire went into the catacombs beneath Alexandria. The more the air seemed to thicken, like the weight of centuries pressing down upon their lungs. Their flashlight beams sliced across stone walls carved with symbols neither fully recognized. A fusion of Coptic script, Templar crosses, and unmistakable Egyptian hieroglyphs. It was as if three civilizations had reached across time to sign their names in the same hidden chamber. This isn't just a burial site, Claire whispered. This looks coordinated, like someone brought these cultures together deliberately. Michael nodded slowly, or like the Templars found something important here, something worth uniting their knowledge with Egyptian lore. They reached a narrow, arched doorway, half collapsed from earthquakes long past. Claire crouched, brushing her fingers across the dust-coated floor. These grooves, Michael, look, they matched the spacing of Templar wheel-like mechanisms. Michael knelt beside her, meaning this wasn't just a tomb they meant to lock something inside. The beam of his flashlight revealed what the rubble had been concealing. A circular indentation in the stone, almost like a broken seal. Around it were four symbols, one on each side of the circle. Claire read them aloud. Osiris, the watchtower, the crossing, and the guardian. Michael frowned. The watchtower, the crossing, those are Templar metaphors. But Osiris, the guardian, that's ancient Egyptian theology. It's a convergence, Claire whispered, and they sealed it deliberately. Whatever's in there, it's a combination of both worlds. The two exchanged a tense look. There was no turning back. They squeezed through the collapsed art, this rising around them, and entered a cavernous chamber that seemed eerily untouched by time. Statues lined the walls, half knights Templar in armor, half Egyptian gods carved in limestone. They stood facing inward, all surrounding a massive stone coffin at the center of the hall. But this was no ordinary sarcophagus. It was marked with a cross intertwined with the Eye of Horus. Michael's breath caught in his throat. Claire, this shouldn't exist. She stepped closer, raising her flashlight to inspect the carvings along the coffin's lid. These inscriptions, they aren't just Egyptian. This is Old French, early Templar script, and here these are mathematical coordinates. Michael leaned in. Coordinates to what? Claire swallowed. It references the axis of dawn. Michael froze. You can't be serious. The axis of dawn was a legendary concept the Templars were rumored to believe in, a cosmic alignment point between the earthly world and something beyond. Skeptics dismissed it as mystical symbolism, but here it was, carved into stone into languages separated by thousands of years. He traced the line with his finger. The axis of dawn was supposed to be a key, a way to unlock knowledge that wasn't meant for ordinary men. Claire stepped away, her voice low. So the Templars came to Egypt because they believed the Egyptians knew something about cosmic alignment, something powerful. And they either found it, Michael said, motioning to the sarcophagus, or tried to hide it. For a moment, only silence filled the chamber, ancient, suffocating silence. Then Claire noticed something else. There were faint metal brackets around the coffin, rusted, but unmistakably mechanical. Why would a stone sarcophagus need metal clamps? She murmured. Michael angled his flashlight to hold something inside, something that didn't just lie still. Both of them went quiet, a cold realization tightening in their chests. Michael exhaled shakily. Claire, what if this isn't just a burial? What if this is the containment structure? And if the Templars collaborated with Egyptian priests to lock it up? She whispered. Then whatever is inside is older than either or. Neither wanted to be the first to touch the lid, but the academic urge, the irresistible pull of history pushed them forward. Together, they gripped the edges, muscles straining, until the lid shifted just a fraction. A tiny gust of cold air escaped. Old air, sealed away 4 centuries air. Claire shivered. Inside, something glimmered. They pushed the lid further until their flashlights illuminated the contents. It wasn't a mummy, nor a body. It was a chest made of black stone no modern tool could replicate. Its edges glowed faintly, not with modern technology, but with an ancient radiance. A soft blue shimmer pulsed from lines etched across its surface, almost like veins carrying light instead of blood. Claire's voice cracked. This is energy-based construction. But from when? How? No ancient culture had the tools. Michael lifted a shaking hand. Claire, look at the inscription. On the top of the chest were to lines 1 in hieroglyphics, and beneath it, Old French. Claire translated aloud. The heart that binds heaven to earth must not awaken. It is the key and the curse. Michael stepped back, his chest tight. Are we looking at a relic? A celestial artifact? Claire stared, stunned. Or a power source? The Egyptians believed the gods descended with objects of power. The Templars believed in relics that could perform miracles, and both stories lead to this. Michael whispered, something that bridges their myths. The artifact suddenly pulsed, just once, a single throb of light, but enough to plunge their bodies into stillness. Did you touch anything? Claire whispered. No, Michael answered breathlessly. It reacted on its own. Before either could speak again, the chamber walls trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere deeper in the catacombs, a grinding noise echoed, metal scraping against stone. A mechanism, a very old mechanism, triggered. Claire grabbed Michael's arm. We need to go, now. But as they turned to run back toward the art, something slid open on the far wall, a thin rectangular door revealing a narrow passage illuminated by the same faint blue glow as the artifact. Oh no, Claire breathed. Michael. The artifact didn't just activate itself. It activated this. Michael's heart hammered. A hidden passage built by Templars, or by ancient priests, or both, Claire said. They didn't have time to debate. The chamber trembled harder. Their choice was simple, stand. Risk the sarcophagus chamber collapsing, or go deeper into the unknown. Michael clenched his jaw. We followed the passage. Claire nodded. Because whatever this place was hiding, it wants to be found. They stepped into the glowing corridor behind them. The stone coffin pulsed one more time like a heartbeat, before sealing itself shut again as if protecting its ancient mystery. And ahead of them, the blue light grew brighter, leading them towards secrets far older and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The glowing corridor stretched before Michael and Claire like a vein of living stone, pulsating softly with an ethereal blue light that seemed to sync with their heartbeats. Every step echoed against the walls, hollow and resonant, amplifying the sense that this place was alive, aware of their presence. Claire kept her hand close to the artifact chest. Though it was no longer in her grip, it had remained behind, pulsing like a silent sentinel. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. "It's like the walls are watching us." Michael nodded, his flashlight beam wavering despite his determination. "It's sentient, maybe. Not conscious, not like us, but aware. Everything we did in the chamber triggered something deeper." The corridor narrowed as they moved deeper underground, and suddenly the floor gave way to a descent, a sloping ramp carved into the bedrock itself. The glow from the walls intensified, illuminating intricate carvings depicting strange rituals, figures with elongated heads, some armored like Templars, others wearing Egyptian garb, raised their hands toward a swirling orb suspended in the air. Claire's voice trembled. "This is unbelievable. They're worshipping the same thing, separated by centuries, and yet it's the same entity." Michael stepped closer to the carvings. "Look at their eyes. They're all fixed on the orb, not at the people around them, not at the ground, but at that a thing. It's reverence, a fear, devotion all in one." A sudden shiver ran down Claire's spine. "Do you think it's still there?" Michael paused, listening. At first, there was nothing but the soft hum of the walls, then a faint vibration, low and resonant, growing steadily as they descended further. It was subtle at first, like distant thunder beneath layers of rock, but it became impossible to ignore. "Michael, it's responding," Claire whispered. He nodded, his teeth clenched. "Every step we take, every vibration we feel, it's alive." At the bottom of the ramp, the corridor opened into a vast chamber unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls curved into a dome, the ceiling lost in shadow above. In the center of the chamber floated the orb from the carvings, suspended in midair without any visible support. Its surface swirled with liquid blue light, spiraling in hypnotic patterns that seemed to draw the mind into its depths. Claire's flashlight fell upon a stone pedestal beneath the orb, inscribed with the same interlocking triangles that had appeared at every significant point along their journey. It's the same symbol everywhere. This is what the Egyptians wanted to contain, and what the Templars tried to harness. Michael stepped closer, his voice reverent. "It's a power source, not just a relic. This is energy, conscious energy, maybe. A fragment of something older than history." Claire swallowed. "Do you think it's dangerous?" The orb pulsed in response, a gentle throb like a heartbeat, the light reflected in their eyes. Almost sentient, then it spoke not with words, but with a sound that resonated inside their skulls. A hum layered with emotion, anticipation, curiosity, and a warning. Michael staggered. "It did knows we're here." Claire's hand gripped his arm. "What do we do?" He shook his head, eyes locked on the orb. "We document it, and we leave. Carefully." But as they moved closer, the air thickened. A wind rose from nowhere, carrying whispers and languages neither of them could comprehend. The orb's glow brightened, bathing the chamber in a blinding light. Michael stumbled back, shielding his eyes. Claire stepped forward, drawn irresistibly toward the orb. "It's calling," she murmured. "I can feel it, pulling me." Michael reached for her hand. "Claire, don't." But before he could stop her, she raised her hand, palm outward toward the orb. It responded instantly, sending waves of light spiraling outward. The walls trembled, and the symbols carved into the dome shifted as though alive. "Michael, it's showing me something," she whispered, her voice trembling. Visions, cities of white stone, endless deserts, and Templars kneeling before this power. The hum deepened, and the chamber itself seemed to pulse in rhythm with the orb. Michael's mind reeled. "Claire, it's giving you memories or history?" She nodded, eyes wide. "Both. It's showing me." Everything the Egyptians tried to hide, everything the Templars tried to exploit. The rise and fall of civilizations, secrets of the stars. Knowledge beyond anything we could understand. Michael swallowed hard. And if it's showing you, is it trusting us? Claire's gaze never wavered from the orb. I think, yes, but it's also testing us. It wants to see if we're worthy, if we can understand without destroying it. A sudden tremor ran through the chamber, more violent than before. Dust fell from the ceiling. The orb pulsed brighter, almost like a heartbeat on the verge of breaking. Michael grabbed Claire's arm. We need to go now. Whatever's happening. It's not safe. She hesitated, eyes still locked on the orb. I need to see one more thing. Just one more. A shadow moved across the chamber. Not human, not animal, something ancient and watching. It slithered along the walls, following the light. Claire, Michael shouted, panic rising. We leave or we die down here. The orb responded, a pulse of energy sweeping across the floor. The air seemed to thicken, almost solid. Whispers grew louder, surrounding them, pressing against their minds. Claire finally tore her gaze away. We can't stay. We have to leave. Together, they turned toward the passageway. But the chamber had changed. The exit they had descended through was gone, replaced by solid stone. The orb floated higher, pulsing faster, the symbols on the dome glowing with a fierce intensity. Michael's voice was raw. It's closing us in. It doesn't want us to leave. Claire's hand trembled as she held Michael's. It's testing us, or warning us. I don't know. Which? The blue light bathed them, and suddenly the visions returned, cities swallowed by darkness. Knights kneeling before the power of something not of this world. Priests chanting under alien skies. The room shuddered, and the hum became deafening. Michael gritted his teeth. Hold on to me. No. Matter what. Claire nodded. Together, they braced themselves against the pulse of energy, knowing that every heartbeat of the chamber, every flicker of the orb, could change history or end it. Above them, the ancient city of Zerzura waited, still hidden beneath the sands, and the secrets of the Templars and Egyptians echoed in the pulse of something that had survived. Millennia, watching, testing, and awakening. Michael and Claire pressed their hands against the cold stone walls, hearts hammering in rhythm with the orb's relentless pulse. The whispers no longer carried language, but emotion, judgment, curiosity, and something darker, quiet, expectant fury. The chamber itself seemed alive, the carved symbols writhing like tendrils of light in response to their presence. Every instinct screamed that they were trespassing, but the draw of knowledge was irresistible. Michael, do you feel it? Claire whispered, voice trembling. It's like it knows us, not just here, but in our lives, and our choices. He swallowed hard, scanning the walls for a sign of movement. I feel it. It's like it can see into us, into our very intentions. We're not just witnesses, we're participants. They moved cautiously toward the center of the chamber, where the orb floated high above the pedestal. Its glow had intensified, filling the dome with a pale, otherworldly light. As they approached, Claire noticed the floor beneath the orb shifting slightly, revealing concentric rings engraved into the stone. Each ring contained symbols that seemed to rotate subtly, almost imperceptibly, like the ticking of an ancient cosmic clock. This isn't a chamber, Claire murmured. It's a mechanism, some kind of cosmic device. Michael's gaze went to the ceiling. Shadows danced over carvings depicting events spanning millennia. Knights in armor kneeling before Egyptian deities, celestial alignments above desert temples, and mysterious beings with elongated features interacting with both. If this orb is a power source, he said slowly, then the Templars and Egyptians were trying to harness something or contain it. A sudden shudder ran through the chamber. Dust fell from the high dome, and the whispers grew louder, almost imperceptibly forming words in their minds. You are not ready. You cannot comprehend. Turn back, Claire froze. It's speaking to us. Inside our heads. Michael's jaw tightened. Not a threat, a warning. It's testing us. But then came movement, a ripple across the floor, subtle but undeniable. Shadows shifted against the walls, stretching toward them. The orb pulsed once, sending a wave of energy that caused their bodies to vibrate with it. Claire staggered, gripping Michael's arm. "It's reacting to us," she gasped. "We triggered something." Michael nodded grimly. "We need to understand it before it decides we're a threat." They circled the pedestal, examining the concentric rings in detail. Each ring seemed to correspond with historical events: the rise and fall of Egyptian dynasties, the construction of temples, the Crusades, and the rise of the Knights Templar. The final ring contained symbols neither of them recognized, geometrical patterns unlike anything in human history, glowing faintly as if alive. Claire's eyes widened. "These aren't just symbols. They're instructions, or a map." Michael leaned closer. "A map to what?" The orb pulsed violently, almost like a heartbeat. In a flash, both Michael and Claire felt themselves mentally transported. Visions filled their minds. Desert city swallowed by sand. Templar knights uncovering hidden chambers. Egyptian priests chanting in sync with celestial alignments. And finally, the orb itself, hovering over a vast city of white stone beneath the sands. Its light ceding knowledge and power to those deemed worthy. Claire stumbled back, gasping. "It's showing us Zerzura. The city isn't just a legend. It's real, and it's alive." Michael's face was pale, and it's been waiting for someone to come, to understand its power or misuse it. The chamber trembled again, dust cascading from the high dome. The orb's glow shifted from blue to a vivid, pulsating silver, bathing the chamber in a spectral light. Shadows along the walls elongated into forms that seemed vaguely humanoid, but impossibly distorted, like echoes of those who had served the orb centuries before. Claire's voice shook. "We're seeing their legacy. Every guardian, every follower of the artifact. They're still here in some form." Michael swallowed hard. "This isn't just history, it's memory. Alive. Preserved by the artifact." The floor beneath the pedestal began to rotate slowly, the concentric rings moving as if activated by their presence. A low hum reverberated through their chests, synchronized with the pulse of the orb. Michael's vision blurred as he felt himself drawn toward the device. "Claire," he shouted, gripping her arm, stepped back. But the orb pulsed stronger, and a stream of silver light shot from it, touching the symbols on the rings. Claire felt a rush of images and sensations flooding into her mind. Knowledge of star alignments, ancient rituals, and technologies lost to time. She fell to her knees, overwhelmed. Michael steadied her. "You have to resist it. Don't let it control you." The orb's energy intensified, sending waves that rattled their teeth and vibrated the stone walls. The shadows on the walls reached toward them, forming ghostly outlines of long-dead Templars and Egyptian priests. They seemed to bow, almost pleading, as if urging the newcomers to comprehend the gravity of the artifact without succumbing to its power. Claire's voice rose above the hum. "It wants us to understand, not destroy. The artifact, the knowledge. It can't be misused. It's alive, and it chooses." Michael nodded, slowly realizing the truth. It's not just a relic. It's a guardian, a teacher. It awakens those ready to bear its knowledge responsibly. The chamber fell silent, the hum fading to a gentle resonance. The orb lowered, settling back above the pedestal, glowing softly like a living eye. The shadows on the walls retreated, and the rotating floor rings came to rest. Claire stood, trembling but resolute. "We survived the test. It trusts us in some way." Michael exhaled. "Or it's preparing us for what's next. This knowledge, it's dangerous, too powerful for humanity if misused." The Egyptians and Templars understood that. That's why they guarded it. The two of them looked at the orb, its silver light washing over them in calm, steady waves. Claire whispered, "We have a choice now. Take the knowledge and leave, or leave it sealed forever." Michael's gaze swept the chamber, the carved symbols, the floating orb. "We take what we can responsibly, and we document everything. The world needs to know the truth, but not to exploit it, to understand it." The orb pulsed once, slowly, approvingly, and deep beneath the sands of Egypt, the city of Zerzura waited silently, ready to reveal more of its secrets, but only to those who could prove themselves worthy. The glow of the orb softened, bathing the chamber in a serene silver-blue light. Michael and Claire exhaled in unison, trying to calm the rush of adrenaline that still coursed through their veins. For a moment, silence reigned, broken only by the faint hum that seemed now more like a heartbeat than a warning. Claire knelt beside the pedestal, tracing her fingers over the concentric rings. Michael, these symbols. I think they're instructions, not just to understand the artifact, but to navigate the city itself. Zerzura is alive, yes, but it's also a labyrinth, and the labyrinth has rules. Michael frowned. Rules, she nodded. Every symbol corresponds to a path, a door, a chamber. If we follow them incorrectly, we might awaken something we aren't prepared to handle. He leaned in, examining the symbols. It's like a map's a combination of geometry and ritual. The Egyptians designed it for protection, and the Templars added layers of their own. Whoever built this intended it to remain a secret unless the seeker was worthy. The chamber trembled again, softer this time, as if the artifact itself was acknowledging their understanding. Claire stood, brushing dust from her knees. We're ready? If we're going to uncover the truth, we follow the path carefully. They moved toward the far end of the chamber, where the walls formed a circular doorway, etched with both Egyptian and Templar symbols. Michael noticed faint grooves in the stone tracks, perhaps for a hidden door mechanism. Look, he said, pointing. These tracks line up perfectly with the rings on the pedestal. The artifact isn't just a power source. It's the key to unlocking the city below. Claire's eyes widened. So every step we take has to align with the orb's design, or the doors won't open. They studied the rings, comparing the symbols to the doorway. Slowly, deliberately, they traced the patterns with their fingers, aligning each symbol on the pedestal with its counterpart on the archway. As they completed the sequence, the ground vibrated softly, and the circular doorway slid open with a resonant hum. Beyond it lay a narrow corridor, walls carved with frescoes depicting the union of Templar knights and Egyptian priests. Figures knelt before a radiant orb, their eyes lifted in reverence, hands raised in synchronized gesture. The scenes were eerily lifelike, almost as if they moved under the flickering light of their flashlights. Michael whispered, "The carvings, they're telling a story." The Templars came to Egypt not just to hide relics, they came to learn, to merge their knowledge with the ancient mysteries here. Claire nodded, and this corridor is a passage through history itself. Each step, each chamber, preserves their knowledge. They proceeded cautiously, aware that every movement could trigger unseen mechanisms. The air grew cooler, heavier, carrying the faint scent of incense long burned and stone untouched by time. At the end of the corridor, they reached a chamber smaller than the previous but intricately detailed. The walls were etched with hieroglyphs, illuminated faintly by phosphorescent stones embedded in the stone. The symbols depicted celestial alignments, rituals, and the transfer of energy from the orb to the city above. Claire studied the carvings. It's a ritual chamber. The Templars likely used this space to perform ceremonies that aligned their actions with cosmic events. The Egyptians probably used it for similar purposes. The convergence of their knowledge is staggering. Michael moved closer to a central stone basin filled with crystal clear water. The surface reflected the glowing walls above. Look, the water. It's not just decorative. It reflects the orb's energy. Maybe it amplifies it, channels it, Claire nodded, or tests the intentions of those who enter. The Egyptians were masters of metaphysical symbolism. The Templars, well, they respected power, and they understood caution. Together, they made sure only the worthy could proceed. Suddenly, the air shifted. A draft swept through the chamber, carrying a faint whisper. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but distinct. "Did you hear that?" Michael asked, voice low. Claire nodded. "Yes, the artifact, it's alive. It's communicating, guiding us." The whispering grew clearer, forming syllables neither could understand, but somehow instinctively comprehended. It was a language of intent, a melody of warning and instruction. The orb's glow responded to the whispers, illuminating a hidden door at the far end of the chamber. Michael approached it cautiously, tracing the carvings around its frame. Another door, another challenge. The city isn't going to give up its secrets easily. Claire took his hand. We've come this far. We can't turn back now. Together, they activated the door, aligning symbols on the frame with those on the pedestal. A series of clicks echoed through the chamber as the door slowly opened, revealing a spiral staircase descending even deeper into the earth. The whispers intensified, a chorus of voices long silenced by time, guiding them downward. The staircase seemed endless, each step taking them further into the unknown. Yet every symbol and whisper reassured them that they were on the right path. Finally, they reached a landing where the corridor opened into a grand hall. The ceiling soared above them, supported by pillars carved with Templar crosses entwined with Egyptian motifs. At the center of the hall stood another orb, smaller than the first, but equally radiant, pulsating in harmony with the larger artifact above. Claire's voice was hushed. This is a nexus point, a convergence of power, knowledge, and history. Everything the Egyptians and Templars safeguarded. It's all here. Michael nodded, awestruck. And we're standing in it, not as intruders, but as witnesses. The orb pulsed brighter, casting shimmering patterns across the hall. The whispers now formed coherent words, clear in their minds. Understand, respect, and carry the knowledge wisely, or be consumed. Claire took a deep breath. We have to document everything carefully. The world isn't ready, but some truths cannot remain hidden forever. Michael agreed. Yes, we proceed with caution. Every step forward is a responsibility. The legacy of the Templars and Egyptians depends on us. Honoring it, the hall seemed to hum with approval, a subtle acknowledgement from the artifacts themselves. The journey was far from over, but Michael and Claire had passed the first true test. They were trusted to learn, to witness, and to respect the knowledge hidden for millennia. And deep within the labyrinthine heart of the underground city, the legacy of the Knights Templar and the ancient Egyptians awaited their next move, ready to reveal secrets older than civilization itself. Michael and Claire moved cautiously through the grand hall, their footsteps echoing against the vaulted ceiling. The orb's pulsating glow cast shadows that seemed alive, flickering across the Templar Egyptian carvings on the pillars. Every symbol they passed seemed to shift subtly, as though responding to their intentions, testing their focus and determination. This place is beyond words, Claire whispered. Every step feels like stepping through history, through centuries of guarded secrets. Michael nodded, his eyes scanning the hall. It's more than history. This is knowledge given form, a repository of understanding both civilizations considered too powerful for the uninitiated. At the far end of the hall, a raised dais beckoned. Upon it rested a stone pedestal, smaller than the one in the previous chamber, but intricately carved. Michael's hand hovered above it. Another artifact, he asked. Claire approached slowly, her eyes tracing the carvings. It looks like a secondary power conduit. The inscription suggests it channels the energy from the main orb to specific points within the city above Zerzura. It's like a network, a hidden city-wide system of knowledge and power. Michael frowned. So the Templars weren't just guarding relics, they were controlling energy, knowledge, influence, everything we've read about their secretive operations. It was just the tip of the iceberg. Claire's fingers brushed over the carvings, tracing the symbols carefully. And the Egyptians laid the foundation. They understood the orbital alignments, the mathematics, the metaphysical principles. The Templars integrated their own codes and religious symbolism to maintain secrecy, ensuring only those they deemed worthy could access it. A low hum began in the chamber, resonating through the stone floor. The smaller orb pulsed in synchronization with the main orb above, sending ripples of light across the hall. Claire instinctively stepped back, shielding her eyes. Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. It's okay. It's a response, not a threat. It wants us to interact, to understand. Claire nodded, taking a deep breath. Then we followed the instructions. Step by step, carefully, they began to map the inscriptions, using Michael's flashlight to illuminate the details. As they worked, They noticed patterns linking the carvings of celestial bodies with Templar crosses and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The alignment was deliberate, meticulous, almost mathematical in precision. "Look at this," Michael said, pointing. "These aren't just stars. These are orbital alignments, marking specific times when energy could be harnessed." The Templars knew when and how to interact with the artifacts safely. Claire's eyes widened, and they left the knowledge encoded in the carvings. Anyone attempting to access it without understanding the alignment could trigger a catastrophe. A sudden vibration shook the hall. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, and the whispers returned, this time forming coherent phrases in their minds. "Alignment is the key. Misstep brings oblivion. Respect the path, or be consumed." Michael's voice was firm. We stayed focused. No sudden movements, no guessing. They began the delicate task of tracing the alignment patterns, each movement carefully measured against the glowing symbols. As they completed the first sequence, the secondary orb responded with a bright pulse, illuminating a hidden staircase descending deeper into the earth. Claire swallowed hard. "It's guiding us further in. We've passed the first test, but this is the next challenge." Michael nodded, gripping her hand. "We've come too far to turn back now." The Templars and Egyptians intended for only those worthy to proceed. "We have to continue." They descended the staircase cautiously. The air grew cooler, heavier, carrying a subtle metallic scent. Faint echoes of chanting reached their ears like a memory of ceremonies long past, embedded into the very stone of the city. At the bottom, they entered a vast chamber unlike any they had seen before. The ceiling stretched high above, adorned with celestial maps carved into the stone. The floor was inlaid with golden lines forming a complex geometric pattern that radiated energy, connecting nodes corresponding to key locations in the city above. Claire knelt, tracing the lines. "This is incredible. It's a city-scale energy grid. Every major temple, every ceremonial site, connected through this network. The Egyptians built it to channel power. The Templars maintained it to control knowledge." Michael's voice was hushed. "And we're standing at the control point. Whoever commands this chamber commands the flow of power throughout Zerzura." A subtle hum began, vibrating through the floor. The geometric lines glowed faintly, reacting to their presence. Claire looked up at Michael, eyes wide. "It's testing us again. Observing, judging." Michael exhaled. "We proceed carefully. Every move counts. One mistake and we don't know what could happen." They began walking the geometric pattern, following the energy lines as though performing a ritual. The chamber responded, nodes lighting sequentially, pulsing with power. Shadows along the walls seemed to move in harmony with the light, forming ghostly images of Templars and Egyptian priests, performing synchronized actions. Claire whispered, "It's teaching us, showing us the correct method. We're learning through interaction, not just observation." Michael nodded, "And the artifact trusts us. But it's also making sure we understand responsibility. The Templars would have done the same. Knowledge without discipline leads to destruction." The pulse of the chamber increased, and the lines of the geometric pattern began to spin, forming a vortex of light in the center. The secondary orb floated toward the vortex, merging its energy with the main orb above. The chamber trembled, and the whispers became a chorus, guiding their thoughts, synchronizing with their actions. Claire's voice rose, clear and confident. "We've reached the convergence point. All the knowledge, the energy, it's flowing together. The city above, the artifact, the Templars, the Egyptians is all one system." Michael's eyes widened. "And now, we have a choice. We can document it, understand it, and leave. Or we can delve even deeper, risking the wrath of something far older than either civilization." Claire looked at the vortex of light, her mind racing with the possibilities. "We continue, but cautiously, respectfully. We're here to learn, not to exploit." The chamber pulsed one final time, the energy stabilizing. The geometric lines glowed steadily, the vortex calming, the orbs synchronizing in radiant harmony. The whispers faded, leaving only the soft hum of contained power. Michael exhaled, gripping Claire's hand. "We've passed another test. But this is just the beginning. The city's secrets go deeper, older, and far more dangerous than we imagined. Claire nodded, eyes fixed on the orbs, and were ready to follow, to uncover the truths of the Templars, the Egyptians, and the ancient city they built together. The knowledge we gain here could change everything. As they prepared to move forward, the chamber seemed to acknowledge their determination. Shadows receded, the floor stabilized, and a faint pathway illuminated itself toward a hidden doorway, beckoning them further into the heart of Zerzura, into the secrets that had remained buried for millennia, waiting for the worthy to arrive. Michael and Claire stepped forward into the newly illuminated passage, their eyes adjusting to the dim, golden light that radiated from faintly glowing carvings along the walls. The doorway closed silently behind them, sealing the grand hall and the convergence chamber in shadows, leaving only the narrow corridor ahead. Every step echoed softly, a reminder of the silence and the centuries of secrets surrounding them. This corridor, it feels alive, Claire whispered, her fingers brushing over the carved symbols. The walls, almost like they're watching us, responding to our presence. Michael nodded. The artifact warned us, every movement, every decision matters. This is no ordinary tunnel, it's part of the city's defense, part of its consciousness. The walls depicted scenes more surreal than anything they had seen so far. Templar knights kneeling before radiant Egyptian deities, mysterious figures with elongated features performing cryptic rituals, and celestial alignments over the city of Zerzura. Each image seemed to flow into the next, almost like a moving tapestry frozen in stone. Claire paused before a depiction showing a knight holding a glowing orb, identical to the one they had encountered. This isn't just history, it's instruction. The Templars documented how to interact with the artifact, how to wield its energy responsibly. Michael traced his finger along the carvings, and the Egyptians laid the foundation. They understood metaphysical energy, the power of alignment, of intention. The Templars merely learned, codified, and preserved it. As they proceeded, the corridor widened, opening into a vast subterranean chamber filled with an array of towering stone pillars. Each pillar was engraved with intricate symbols and topped with golden orbs that pulsed faintly, mirroring the energy of the larger artifact above. The air hummed with power, almost vibrating against their chests, a subtle reminder that they were standing within an extraordinary system of energy and knowledge. Claire's voice trembled slightly as she whispered, "Michael, look at the pillars. Each one seems to represent a node of power. The orbs. They're connected. We're standing inside a network, a living map of energy that spans the city above." Michael's eyes scanned the room. It's a grid, a control system. The Egyptians built it to channel cosmic energy. The Templars maintained it to safeguard knowledge. Whoever commands this chamber commands the flow of information and power throughout. Zerzura. A soft pulse rippled through the room, and the golden orbs flickered in sequence. As if recognizing their presence, the carvings along the walls whispered faintly, their messages incomprehensible, yet emotionally resonant. Caution, respect, patience. Claire stepped forward, placing her hand on one of the pillars. The orb atop it brightened, and she felt a surge of energy flow through her, filling her mind with visions of celestial patterns, ritual alignments, and the ancient city's hidden pathways. The knowledge was overwhelming, yet it was accompanied by a clarity of purpose. Michael placed his hand on the neighboring pillar, his vision filled with images of Templar knights meticulously charting the stars, performing precise rituals, and safeguarding the secrets they had inherited from Egypt. Each node in the network represented a balance of power, wisdom, and responsibility. Misalignment could spell disaster. Claire exhaled, her voice hushed. It's not just a power grid, it's a test. Every touch, every alignment, the city gauges our intent, our understanding. We have to proceed with absolute respect. Michael nodded, his eyes scanning the chamber. Then we move carefully, step by step. We have to learn, not just observe. Engage without exploiting. They begin walking through the network, touching the orbs in a precise sequence that matched the carvings on the walls. With each successful alignment, The pillars glowed brighter, and the whispers became clearer, almost guiding their thoughts. Shadows flickered along the walls, forming ghostly images of the original guardians, the Templars and Egyptian priests, who had maintained this network for centuries. Claire's voice rose, confident but cautious. Every step must be intentional. This is a living record of their legacy. If we fail, we risk losing not just the knowledge, but ourselves in the process. Michael exhaled. And yet, we're learning, absorbing it, understanding it. That's what they intended to prepare a worthy successor. Someone capable of preserving the knowledge without corruption. The chamber pulsed with energy, the orbs synchronizing in a luminous rhythm. A central pedestal rose from the floor, smaller than the previous ones, but intricately carved. Radiating faint golden light, the carvings on it seemed to depict the final alignment, the ultimate convergence point of energy, knowledge, and cosmic power. Claire studied the symbols carefully. This is the culmination, the city's core. We have to align everything perfectly. One misstep could trigger the system, and we don't know what might happen. Michael swallowed hard. Then we proceed to gather dots slowly, deliberately. Step by step, they align the network, the golden orbs responding to their touch. The room pulsed with an intensity that made their hearts race. The shadows of the ancient guardians seemed to move in approval, watching as the newcomers demonstrated focus, respect, and comprehension. Finally, the central pedestal glowed brightly, a beam of golden light shooting upward toward the ceiling. The energy rippled through the entire chamber, harmonizing with the larger orb above. The whispers became a coherent message in their minds. Knowledge earned, responsibility accepted. Proceed with wisdom. Claire exhaled, trembling but resolute. We've done it. The network, it recognizes us as worthy. The city that trusts us. Michael nodded, looking around at the pulsating energy. This is the moment. We've proven ourselves capable of understanding, of respect. But the journey isn't over. The city holds more secrets, deeper knowledge, and more tests. As they moved toward the newly revealed passage, the chamber seemed to exhale. As if acknowledging their accomplishment, the pathway ahead was illuminated, guiding them deeper into the labyrinthine heart of Zerzura, toward the ultimate truth, the knowledge that had been safeguarded for millennia by the combined wisdom of the Egyptians and the Knights Templar. And so, with cautious determination and hearts filled with awe, Michael and Claire continued their journey, stepping further into the living legacy of power, wisdom, and responsibility, fully aware that what lay ahead could redefine everything they understood about history, knowledge, and human potential. Michael and Claire advanced into the next chamber, the air heavy with a scent of stone, dust, and a faint, metallic tang that hinted at the latent energy surrounding them. Their footsteps echoed against the vaulted ceiling, and the glow of faintly phosphorescent carvings along the walls guided their path. The corridor widened gradually, opening into a space that radiated both majesty and foreboding. This place, Claire whispered, eyes wide. It's like stepping into the mind of centuries-old civilizations. Every detail, every carving, it's purposeful. Michael studied the walls closely. The Templars didn't just guard treasure or relics. They documented knowledge, secrets, and the mechanics of power itself. And the Egyptians, they codified cosmic law into the very structure of the city. They reached a massive stone archway engraved with interlocking symbols, hieroglyphs, intertwining with Templar crosses and cryptic geometric patterns. It pulsed faintly, almost as if alive. The orb above, though distant, mirrored the archway's rhythm. Michael took a deep breath. This is the next threshold, he said. The carvings indicate a test, a trial. It's not just physical, it's mental, maybe even spiritual. They designed this for guardians and seekers worthy of understanding the deeper mysteries. Claire's eyes traced the intricate designs. Every pattern corresponds to a cosmic alignment, positions of stars, orbits, and celestial events. The Templars were able to interpret these patterns and integrate them with Egyptian knowledge. It's brilliant and dangerous if misused. The chamber ahead was dark, but the carvings illuminated subtly as they approached. responding to their movements. The floor, etched with concentric circles, began to glow faintly, hinting at the path they were meant to follow. Claire stepped cautiously, her hand hovering over the symbols to avoid touching the wrong one. Michael followed suit. Every step must be intentional. The wrong move could trigger something. We don't know what, but the warnings are clear. They began the delicate process of moving across the floor, tracing the illuminated path. With every precise step, the symbols pulsed brighter, and the whispers returned not in a language, but as sensations, guidance, approval, caution. The chamber seemed to breathe around them. Alive and aware of their intent, Claire's voice was low but steady. This is the culmination of everything we've learned so far. The orb, the network, the pillars, they've all prepared us for this threshold. We have to understand, respect, and move carefully. Michael nodded, eyes fixed on the glowing path. We're not intruders. We're witnesses. And now, participants in their legacy. As they reached the center of the chamber, a pedestal rose from the floor. It was carved from a single block of obsidian, its surface polished and etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer with energy. The orb above pulsed in tandem, sending threads of light down to the pedestal, connecting them in a web of radiant energy. Claire knelt, her hand hovering above the obsidian. This is the culmination. Everything the Templars and Egyptians safeguarded, focused into one point. The convergence of knowledge, power, and responsibility. Michael's eyes narrowed as he examined the carvings. It's a nexus. Whoever controls this controls the flow of knowledge, the energy network, and the hidden truths of Zerzura. But it's more than that. It's a test of character. Intentions are as important as action here. The whispers grew stronger, forming a coherent voice in their minds. Only those who seek understanding without desire for dominion shall proceed. The rest shall falter. Claire exhaled. We've been tested in every chamber, every step of the journey. And now, we must prove our intent, that we seek knowledge, not power. Michael nodded. Then we proceed together, carefully, deliberately, with respect. They began aligning their movements with the symbols on the pedestal, tracing patterns with their hands and stepping in precise sequence. The obsidian shimmered, responding to their touch. Threads of light weaving intricate paths connecting to the larger orb above. Shadows along the walls shifted, forming spectral images of ancient guardians, the Templars and Egyptian priests who had maintained this knowledge for centuries. Claire whispered, "They're observing, approving, guiding us. We're learning through interaction, not just observation." Michael's gaze was fixed on the pedestal. This is the final alignment. The city, the artifact, the knowledge, they're all intertwined. We must complete the sequence flawlessly. As they finished the last pattern, the chamber pulsed with energy. Light threads shot from the pedestal, connecting every symbol, every pillar, every orb in the network. The whispers merged into a single, harmonious voice. Knowledge earned, responsibility accepted. Proceed with wisdom. Claire and Michael exhaled simultaneously, their bodies trembling from the intensity of the energy. The chamber seemed to exhale with them, acknowledging their achievement. They had passed the final test, proving their worthiness to bear the secrets of Zerzura. Michael looked at Claire, awe in his eyes. We did it. The network, the orbs, the chambers, they've accepted us. The Templars and Egyptians, their legacy lives on through us. Claire nodded, her gaze fixed on the glowing pedestal. But this is just the beginning. The knowledge we now hold, it comes with responsibility. We must document it, preserve it, and understand it fully before sharing it with the world. The chamber settled into a serene glow, the threads of light harmonizing with the orb above. A pathway illuminated itself, leading deeper into the labyrinth, promising more revelations, ancient technologies, knowledge lost to time, and the full history of the Knights Templar and their collaboration with the Egyptians. With cautious determination, Michael and Claire stepped forward, ready to continue their journey into the heart of Zerzura. The city's secrets awaited, revealing the extraordinary wisdom and power that had been hidden for millennia, accessible only to those who demonstrated respect, understanding, and the intent to safeguard history. And so, They advanced deeper, aware that each discovery carried profound implications, not only for themselves but for the understanding of human history, knowledge, and the ethical responsibility that came with wielding such profound power. Michael and Claire stepped through the newly revealed pathway, their senses heightened. The air grew cooler, almost electric, carrying a subtle resonance that vibrated along their bones. The corridor's walls were smoother here, polished to a near glass sheen, reflecting the golden glow of faintly luminous symbols that lined the path. Each symbol seemed to hum softly, communicating a silent rhythm of energy, almost like a heartbeat embedded within the stone. "This section feels different," Claire whispered. "It's more refined, almost ceremonial. The Templar's influence is unmistakable, but it's blended with an Egyptian precision that feels alive." Michael nodded. "I can feel it too. It's as if the corridor itself is aware of us, measuring our intent, observing our resolve. This isn't just architecture. It's a sentient design, a teaching tool, and a safeguard combined." They walked cautiously, following the subtle glow along the walls. Every few steps, the symbols shifted slightly, guiding their gaze, ensuring their focus remained aligned with the energy pathways beneath their feet. The whispers, now more distinct, were a series of tonal vibrations rather than words, a language of understanding, comprehension, and alignment. At the corridor's end, a massive doorway emerged, carved from black basalt and inlaid with gold and lapis lazuli. Intertwined hieroglyphs and Templar crosses shimmered in the soft light, and at the center, a bas-relief depicted a knight kneeling before an Egyptian deity, hands extended toward a radiant orb. Claire approached it, running her fingers over the carvings. "This depicts the ultimate convergence. The knight and the priest aren't just worshiping, they're merging knowledge, aligning energies, ensuring that both wisdom and power remain controlled, understood, and protected." Michael studied the bas-relief. It's a warning as well. The knowledge isn't meant for personal gain. Anyone attempting to exploit it risks annihilation or corruption. The convergence is precise, delicate, and morally binding. A subtle vibration resonated from the doorway as they drew near. Golden threads of light began emanating from the carvings, spiraling outward and connecting to the larger orb above in the chamber they had passed. The threads pulsed in perfect rhythm, creating a lattice of energy that seemed almost tangible. Claire's eyes widened. It's alive. The city, the artifacts, they're all networked. The Templars maintained it. The Egyptians created it. And now, it's testing us again, measuring our focus, our intent, our worthiness to proceed. Michael stepped closer, placing a hand on the cool stone. Energy surged faintly through his fingers, and visions flickered in his mind, images of Templar knights charting stars, Egyptians aligning pyramids with celestial bodies, and rituals conducted with meticulous precision to harness and safeguard energy. Claire joined him, her hand hovering just above the carvings. "We're being shown the consequences of misuse and the rewards of understanding. The lessons are encoded in the architecture itself. We must proceed with reverence." They began the delicate process of tracing the symbols on the doorway, aligning their movements with the energy lattice that connected it to the orb above. As they completed each segment, the doorway responded with a soft pulse, confirming their alignment. The air around them thrummed with growing intensity, a harmonic resonance that filled the chamber with both awe and subtle tension. Michael exhaled. "Every step here matters. It's not enough to understand the past, we must act in accordance with its principles. Discipline, respect, knowledge, and ethical intent, that's the lesson." Claire nodded. "And we're proving ourselves capable. The city's design, the orbs, the lattice, they're all guiding us. They're teaching us to harmonize with the energy without corrupting it. We're learning their language, their rules, their morality." As the last sequence of symbols was traced, the doorway began to shift. Sections of stone slid apart, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. The air inside glimmered with faint golden particles, floating as if suspended in time. At the chamber's center stood a circular dais, adorned with carvings representing the entire energy network of Zerzura, the city above, and the celestial alignments critical to the Templars and Egyptians. Claire approached the days, her eyes scanning the intricate diagrams. This is the command center of the network. Every node we've seen, every pillar, every orb, it converges here. The knowledge, the energy, the responsibility, it all resides at this point. Michael followed, his hand hovering above the central orb embedded in the days. Light pulsed faintly, responding to his presence. This is the culmination. The Templars and Egyptians left this as the ultimate lesson. Understanding power is inseparable from responsibility. Knowledge without ethics leads to chaos. The whispers intensified, forming coherent thoughts in their minds. Those who seek understanding, without desire for dominion, may proceed. Those who covet power alone shall falter. Balance, wisdom, and respect are the keys. Claire exhaled, feeling the weight of centuries on her shoulders. We've come so far, but this is the true test. Not physical endurance, not intellect alone, but moral integrity. Michael nodded. We proceed together. Every action, every alignment, must honor the legacy of those who came before. The Templars and Egyptians entrusted this knowledge to those who are worthy, and now it's our responsibility. Step by step, they activated the central days, tracing the energy pathways with synchronized precision. Golden threads of light shot out, connecting each node, pillar, and orb across the chambers they had traversed. The whispers merged into a harmonious chorus. Knowledge earned, responsibility accepted. Proceed with wisdom and caution. The chamber exhaled a final, resonant pulse, and the energy stabilized. The central orb shone brilliantly, illuminating every corner with golden light. Michael and Claire stood in awe, realizing they had reached the threshold of ultimate understanding, the point at which centuries of knowledge, secrecy, and power converged. Claire's voice trembled with reverence. We've done it. We've aligned the network. We're accepted as guardians of this knowledge, as witnesses to the legacy of the Templars and Egyptians. Michael exhaled, gazing at the luminous orb. And yet, there's more. The city holds even deeper secrets, older knowledge, and challenges we cannot yet foresee. But we are ready. We've earned the right to proceed. The pathway ahead illuminated, revealing steps descending even deeper into Zerzura's labyrinth. The whispers softened, leaving behind a faint hum of energy that resonated through the chamber, as if the city itself was acknowledging their accomplishment and inviting them further. With cautious determination and hearts brimming with awe, Michael and Claire took their next steps, descending into the deeper mysteries of Zerzura, prepared to uncover the full extent of the ancient collaboration between the Knights Templar and the Egyptians, a legacy of knowledge, power, and responsibility that had remained hidden for millennia, waiting for the worthy. Michael and Claire descended the illuminated steps, the air growing cooler and heavier with each level. The deeper they ventured, the more the architecture blended Egyptian elegance with Templar precision. Polished stone walls, engraved with sacred symbols and cryptic codes, reflected the golden glow of faintly luminescent glyphs. Each symbol pulsed gently, as if guiding their path through the labyrinthine depths of Zerzura. This level feels older, Claire murmured. The carvings, they're less refined, almost raw, primal. It is as if we've crossed from the Templar integration back into the original Egyptian designs. Michael's gaze swept over the walls, and yet the energy is stronger here. The Egyptians' understanding of cosmic alignment, of metaphysical channels, it's concentrated in this section. The Templars preserved it, but the foundation is purely ancient. As they moved forward, they noticed faint bas-reliefs depicting Egyptian priests performing intricate rituals under a sky filled with stars. Constellations aligned with symbols now mirrored in the Templar cross motifs they had seen earlier. The carvings seemed alive, telling a story not just through images but through intention, as though they contained embedded instructions for those who could perceive them. Claire's hand hovered over one of the carvings. These are not just instructions, they're warnings and lessons combined. The Egyptians understood the power. They were channeling energy that could heal, enlighten, or destroy. Michael nodded, stepping carefully across the patterned floor. and the Templars. By overlaying their religious and protective codes, ensure that only those with discipline and moral clarity could access it. Every layer here is designed to filter intent. They reached a vast chamber with a ceiling that arched high above, its surface adorned with golden constellations and celestial maps. A faint hum filled the room, vibrating through the floor and resonating with their very bones. At the center stood a stone dais, larger than any they had seen, edged with concentric circles that radiated outward like ripples in water. Claire approached it, cautiously, tracing the carvings. This is the Master Nexus, the core of the city's energy, the point where all knowledge and power converge. The Egyptians designed it to harmonize with the cosmos. The Templars ensured the continuity of that power. Michael stepped closer. If this nexus is activated correctly, it could illuminate the entire network, revealing not just the energy grid, but the hidden chambers, secret histories, and lost knowledge encoded throughout Zerzura. As they work to interpret the carvings, the whispers return, stronger this time, forming coherent phrases in their minds. Harmony requires understanding. Power requires discipline. Knowledge requires wisdom. Only those worthy may proceed. Claire exhaled, feeling the weight of centuries. It's not just a test of intellect. It's a test of character. Every alignment, every interaction, it gauges our intent, our ethical approach to this power. Michael nodded. We've come too far to falter now. Every step must be intentional. Every action guided by respect and understanding. They began the intricate process of activating the Nexus, tracing symbols, and following patterns aligned with celestial maps etched on the ceiling. Golden threads of light extended from the dais, linking the nodes, pillars, and orbs throughout the chambers they had traversed. Shadows flickered along the walls, forming the ghostly images of Egyptian priests and Templar knights performing synchronized movements, approving and guiding their actions. Claire's voice was calm, but firm. We're not just observers, we're participants, learning through interaction. This is their teaching method, a living lesson across time. Michael exhaled, focusing on the final sequence. And we are ready. Every misstep could be catastrophic, but every correct alignment strengthens the network, reinforces the knowledge, and validates our intent. As they completed the final sequence, the chamber pulsed with radiant energy. The golden threads of light connected fully, harmonizing with the larger orb above, and a wave of illumination spread across the labyrinth, revealing previously hidden passages and chambers. The whispers merged into a single, clear voice. Knowledge earned, responsibility accepted, wisdom recognized. Proceed with reverence. Claire and Michael exchanged a look of awe and relief. We've done it, Claire said softly. The Nexus has accepted us. We are now recognized as worthy to access the deeper knowledge. Michael's gaze swept the chamber, eyes wide. And yet, the journey continues. There are still layers of history, hidden truths, and guarded secrets we have yet to uncover. But now, the city trusts us. The energy responds to our presence. We can proceed further into Zerzura's heart. A pathway illuminated itself, descending further into the labyrinth. Golden light traced its edges, beckoning them forward as if inviting them to discover the ultimate secrets of the city. Claire took Michael's hand, both aware that the responsibility they now bore extended beyond themselves. The knowledge they were about to uncover could redefine history, human understanding, and the balance of power encoded by civilizations long gone. With determination and reverence, they stepped into the illuminated pathway, ready to face the final layers of Zerzura. As hidden legacy, a culmination of Egyptian wisdom and Templar guardianship that had survived millennia, awaiting those capable of understanding, respecting, and preserving it for generations to come. Michael and Claire moved into the final chamber, the culmination of their journey through Zerzura's labyrinth. The air was heavy with centuries of history, tinged with the faint scent of incense long extinguished and the metallic tang of latent energy. The chamber was vast, circular, and crowned with a dome covered in intricate celestial carvings. Golden light radiated from the ceiling, cascading downward to illuminate a massive central dais adorned with hieroglyphs, Templar crosses, and symbols that seemed older than time itself. This is the heart of it all, Claire whispered, awe in her voice. The master nexus, every secret, every alignment, every lesson, it converges here. Michael's gaze swept the chamber, everything we've seen, every test, every network, every energy node. It was leading to this point. The Egyptians designed it, the Templars preserved it, and now it awaits those worthy to witness and understand. The days pulsed faintly. Responding to their presence, threads of golden light extended outward, linking to the network they had activated in previous chambers. The whispers returned, stronger and more coherent than ever, forming a melodic chorus in their minds. Those who seek understanding, not dominion, may proceed. Knowledge is a responsibility, power a burden, and wisdom a necessity. Claire approached the days, her fingers hovering above. The carvings, we have to proceed carefully. One wrong move could destabilize the network, or worse, trap us here. Michael nodded. Then we follow the patterns exactly as instructed by the carvings. Respect, focus, and intent must guide every action, step by step. They trace the intricate patterns etched into the days, aligning symbols and touching nodes in perfect synchronization. The golden light responded, brightening with each correct sequence. Shadows along the walls shifted, forming ethereal images of Templar knights and Egyptian priests performing synchronized rituals, approving their progress as they completed the final sequence. A beam of light shot from the central orb of the days to the dome above, illuminating the celestial carvings in full brilliance. The chamber vibrated softly, as if the entire city of Zerzura itself acknowledged their accomplishment. The whispers coalesced into a singular, harmonious voice, knowledge earned, responsibility accepted, wisdom recognized, guardianship confirmed. Claire exhaled, her body trembling with awe and relief. We did it. The network, the orbs, the nexus. It's all aligned. The city trusts us. We are worthy. Michael's eyes were wide as he gazed at the radiant orb. And yet, the knowledge here isn't just about energy or architecture. It's history, philosophy, strategy, ethics. It's everything the Templars and Egyptians preserved through centuries of secrecy. Our responsibility now is to understand, protect, and share it wisely. The chamber pulsed with light, revealing hidden alcoves containing ancient scrolls, tablets, and artifacts. Each seemed to radiate energy, preserving knowledge of rituals, star alignments, and historical accounts that had been lost to the surface world for millennia. Claire carefully examined a tablet, tracing the hieroglyphs. These records, they contain insights into celestial navigation, architectural engineering, and even early concepts of energy management. The Templars and Egyptians were far ahead of their time. Michael held up a crystalline-cased manuscript, and they left these here intentionally, not as treasure, but as lessons. Whoever discovers them must learn, respect, and continue their legacy. Without selfish intent, the knowledge is powerful, but it is also a responsibility. The whispers return, gentler now, like a lullaby carrying the weight of centuries. Guardians of wisdom, you have proven your intent. Remember, power without ethics corrupts. Knowledge without guidance misleads. Use this understanding to illuminate, not dominate. Preserve, respect, and pass forward the legacy entrusted to you. Claire looked at Michael, determination in her eyes. We're not just explorers anymore. We're custodians of an ancient legacy. What we do with this knowledge matters far beyond us. Michael nodded, and the city has guided us to this point. Zerzura itself has judged our intent. We are the continuation of a line of guardians, those who understand that wisdom is inseparable from responsibility. They spent hours exploring the chamber, documenting inscriptions, studying the alignments, and connecting the knowledge they had gained from the energy network to the physical artifacts and texts. Every new discovery reinforced their understanding of the Egyptians, metaphysical concepts, and the Templars' methods of safeguarding them across centuries. As they prepared to leave, the central orb pulsed one final time, casting a serene golden glow over the chamber. Claire whispered, "The city has shared its secrets. We've learned, respected, and aligned ourselves with its intent. Now we carry its legacy forward." Michael placed his hand on the orb, feeling the energy flow through him. "And we will. Not for power, not for fame, but to protect, understand, and preserve. That is our responsibility as guardians." With reverence, they ascended the steps toward the surface, leaving the chamber illuminated but undisturbed as it had remained for centuries. Zerzura's secrets were no longer hidden, they had been revealed to those who proved worthy, carrying forward a legacy of wisdom, balance, and ethical stewardship that had survived millennia. As they emerged into the light of day, Michael looked at Claire and smiled. "We've seen history, not just as it happened, but as it was meant to endure. The Templars and Egyptians entrusted this to time, and now, to us." Claire nodded, a sense of purpose settling over her. "And we will honor that trust. We'll share knowledge responsibly, protect it fiercely, and ensure the wisdom of Zerzura continues to guide future generations." The journey through the labyrinth had ended, but their responsibility was only beginning. They had uncovered the dark secrets, the wisdom, and the ethical framework of two of history's most enigmatic civilizations. The true legacy of the Knights Templar and the Egyptians was not just in power or mystery. It was in the stewardship of knowledge, a responsibility they now carried forward. The city's whispers faded, leaving only a profound sense of connection to the past and a clear understanding of the moral and intellectual responsibility that true knowledge demanded.